I'm lying there, half dead, and the first thing I hear in my new life is my wife crying about becoming some rich old pervert's concubine. Great start. Really great start. Let me back up. I was a top-tier assassin back in my world. Emphasis on was, because I got turned into Swiss cheese by a Gatling gun during an ambush. Figured I'd wake up in hell, but no. Instead, I'm in some crumbling mud hut, wrapped in a blanket that's more patches than blanket, inside the body of a broke hunter also named Xiao Chun. And this version of me? Absolute disaster. 3 days ago, his dad dragged him into the mountains to hunt. They ran into a tiger. Dad became tiger food, and I got mauled half to death. Some childhood friend carried my body back to the village. I've been unconscious for 3 days until my soul decided to move in. The wife, Gu Ning, she's sitting next to me crying. Beautiful girl, maybe 15 or 16, and she's trying to smile through tears while offering me porridge. I take one look at the porridge. It's just rough grain floating in hot water. But I haven't eaten in 3 days, so I chugged the whole thing in one go. Got any more? No, then it hits me. Dad died 3 days ago. He left 7 copper coins. That bought 3 liang of rough rice. I just drank 2 liang worth in one gulp, which means this girl has been surviving on less than 1 liang for 3 days while watching my unconscious body. I'm sitting there feeling like the worst husband in 2 worlds when bang. Some bald meathead kicks my door right off the hinges. This guy's got a skinning knife on his belt still crusted with old blood, a nose so greasy it's reflecting sunlight, and he's licking his yellow teeth while staring directly at my wife's chest. His name is Zhao Meng. Village thug. Recently became the lackey of some rich guy named Zhang, and now he struts around stealing from hunters like he owns the place. Oh, you're alive? He looks genuinely surprised I survived the tiger. Well, your dad's dead is due. 30 liang. Pay up. Gu Ning nearly chokes. It was 5 liang last month, 5 to 30. These loan sharks don't even try to be subtle. A normal hunter makes 10 liang a year. And that's before taxes and food. 30 liang might as well be $1 million. Then Baldy drops the generous offer. Hand over my wife to Master Zhang's mansion. Debt forgiven. Taxes covered too. What a deal. Here's the thing about Master Zhang. Every woman who enters that mansion as a concubine basically disappears. The guy collects wives like trading cards and treats them about as well. Zhao Meng turns to leave, all smug, like he just did me a huge favor. Hold it. Gu Ning freezes. Poor girl thinks I'm about to agree to send her away. You kicked my door down and scared my wife. You think you're just walking out? Zhao Meng, stunned. Gu Ning, stunned. Pay for the door. This meathead actually laughs. You want me to pay? Did the tiger knock your brain loose? I said, pay up. He throws a punch at my face. Look, buddy, I was the top assassin in China. You're a bald guy with a skinning knife. This was never going to go your way. I block with my left, and with my right, I nail him right on the radial nerve. Crack. His wrist tendon snaps like a guitar string. The scream that comes out of this man could wake the dead in 3 provinces. He's rolling on the floor, snot and tears everywhere, looking like a kicked stray dog. He scrambles up, shaking, digs out his money pouch with his one working hand, and hurls a liang of silver and a handful of copper coins on the ground. Master Zhang always gets what he wants. He hisses through clenched teeth, stumbling out. I glance at the money on the floor. 1 liang of silver. Takes an ordinary person half a year to save that. Being a rich man's dog really does pay well. Tell your boss, I call after him. If he looks at my wife again, I'll burn his mansion to the ground. Get out. He trips over the doorframe running away. And then Gu Ning, bless her heart, starts twisting her sleeve and whispers, Husband, maybe I should just go to the mansion. Girl, I just snapped a man's wrist for you. We are not doing this. Don't ever bring that up again. Gu Ning tried to argue, but I shut it down. I brushed the dust off her face and smoothed her hair. It's just 30 liang. You think your husband can't handle that? She went all shy on me. Cute. But then her eyes lit up like she just remembered something. She turned around, reached into her collar, and pulled out a jade pendant from around her neck. This is the last thing my mother left me before she died. It should be worth something. Let's pawn it. I took it. Still warm. Smelled faintly like her. It was pretty plain. No fancy carvings, just the character, Ning, on the front. Her mother's dying gift. This is your mother's keepsake. We're keeping it. I hung it back around her neck, fixed her hair, and smiled. Wifey, don't worry about money. Your husband's got this. Her eyes went watery again. Apparently nobody's been nice to her since her mom died. What I didn't know was that she'd already made up her mind. If I can't come up with 30 liang in 3 days, she's marching herself to Zhang's mansion and trading her life for my debt. This woman is going to give me a heart attack. So I sat down on a wobbly stool, stared at a chipped bowl, and started thinking. Priority 1, money. Not even for the debt. I honestly don't care about that loan shark nonsense. The interest is illegal anyway. I'll deal with it when I feel like it. No, the real priority is making sure my wife actually eats. Then I noticed the bow hanging on the wall. I slapped my own forehead. Right. I'm a hunter. West of our village there's a massive forest called Big Ridge, crawling with wild animals. Including that tiger, the one that killed my predecessor's father. If I can take it down, that's revenge and a payday. Tiger parts sell for serious money. And once I've got some starting capital, well, the empire's falling apart. Bandits everywhere, people starving. A guy with my skill set could make a living as a Robin Hood type. Back in my old life, I wasn't just good with guns. I trained in cold weapons, ancient martial arts, even acupuncture and bone setting. I'm basically a one-man army dropped into the medieval era. But that bow on the wall, absolute garbage. Trying to kill a tiger with that thing would be like trying to cut steak with a spoon. I need real weapons first. Honey, stay home. I'm heading out. Guning nodded without asking questions. Good girl. I grabbed Zhao Meng's silver and copper coins and headed for the village gate. That's when I heard someone yelling behind me. Qinji. Qinji, a tanned kid in rough clothes came sprinting over. This is Ahu, the village chief's son and my body's childhood best friend. He's the one who found me half dead on the mountain and carried me back. Literally saved my life. He ran up and started patting me down. Arms, legs, torso. And then when I wasn't paying attention, he grabbed my crotch. Good. All 5 limbs accounted for. I rolled my eyes so hard I almost saw my own brain. My wife hasn't even touched me there yet, and this kid's out here doing a full inspection. Ahu, you know any good weapon shops in the county? Weapons? What for? Your bow broken? Nah. I need something else forged. He didn't question it. Kid's got the curiosity of a golden retriever. There's Old Lou's blacksmith shop on the west side of town. My dad says he's good. Perfect. Come with me. So we walked for half an hour to Ping'an County. It's one of the 4 cities under Jiangzhou in the northern frontier of the empire. Nothing fancy, but compared to our dirt-poor village, the bustling streets and merchant stalls felt like Times Square. We found Old Lou's shop. The clang-clang of hammering hit us before we even got close, along with a wave of heat that made Ahu back up a step. Me? I was excited. The blacksmith was shirtless, bronze-skinned, muscles like iron cables. This guy clearly knew his craft. I waited for a break in his work and got straight to the point. Master Liu, how much to forge a broadsword from refined steel? He barely glanced at me. I'm a teenager in rags, so obviously he didn't take me seriously and kept hammering. 3 liang. 3 liang? I almost choked. Market price for a standard steel saber is about 800 copper coins. Even a fancy refined steel broadsword shouldn't cost more than 2 liang. This guy's charging me 3? That's not a price. That's armed robbery with a hammer. I was planning to haggle him down to 1 liang. But when your opening price is already in outer space, where do you even start negotiating? I turned to Ahu. How much money you got on you? He held up 2 fingers with his big tanned hand. 2 liang? Oh, perfect. Qinji, not 2 liang. 2 copper coins. He pulled out 2 tiny copper coins from his pocket and held them up like he was showing me buried treasure. I stared at them, then at him, then back at the coins. I mean, yeah, makes sense. Even if his dad is the village chief, that just means they're the least broke family in a village full of broke people. Nobody's handing their kid 2 liang of silver for a stroll into town. I took a deep breath and turned back to the blacksmith. Master Liu, any chance of a discount? No bargaining. Price is final. Great. I need a proper weapon to kill a tiger, but I can't afford one. I've got 1 liang in change. He wants 3. The math isn't matting. Then I looked at him more carefully, and I got an idea. I straightened up, put one hand behind my back, got to look confident, and dropped my pitch. Master Liu, the reason I want this broadsword is to kill a tiger. He stopped hammering. If I slay that tiger with a blade you forged, imagine the publicity. The tiger-slaying hero's weapon, forged at Old Lou's blacksmith shop, Ping'an County. That kind of advertising? Worth way more than 3 liang. The crowd that had gathered started buzzing immediately. Did I hear that right? This twig wants to kill a tiger. Whose kid is this? The tiger would use him as a toothpick. He's trying to scam a free sword. Does he think old Lou's stupid? I didn't flinch. Sure, hunting a tiger solo sounds insane. Not everyone's Wusong from the legends. But I've got something nobody here has, modern knowledge. Traps, terrain advantages, actual combat training. Give me the right weapon and some prep time, and one tiger is very doable. Old Lou waved me off. Kid, quit wasting my time. See, here's the backstory. The empire's been falling apart for years. Populations dropped, forests have expanded, and tigers have been breeding like crazy. They've even started forming groups. The local government sent multiple professional hunting squads into Big Ridge Forest to deal with the tiger problem. Every single one came back with casualties and 0 dead tigers. So yeah, from his perspective, some skinny teenager claiming he'll solo a tiger is comedy gold. But I wasn't done. I'd noticed something about him while watching him work. Master Lou, let me guess, you've been getting chest tightness and shortness of breath lately. He froze. Your back feels like someone's pressing down on it. The pain runs all the way from your tailbone up to your neck. Your arm muscles feel locked up, stiff as rope, and every time you swing that hammer, your shoulder feels like it's being stabbed. His eyes went wide. How do you know that? Here's the thing. I've been watching him work. Every hammer strike came with heavy panting. His back was slightly hunched, spine curving like it was carrying invisible weight. The muscles in his arms looked tight, but it was a sick kind of tight. Veins bulging under the skin like they were about to pop. Classic signs of severe repetitive strain damage to the spine. If he keeps going like this, he's got maybe a month before he can never swing a hammer again. That's why he handed off that half-finished blade to his apprentice earlier. He literally couldn't finish it himself. What if I told you I'm a doctor? Don't mess with me, kid. I've seen doctors. Taken medicine. Nothing works. They couldn't fix you. I can. Look, when you're a top assassin who gets shot and stabbed for a living, you pick up some medical skills along the way. Traditional bone setting, acupuncture. I got pretty good at it out of pure survival necessity. Old Lou put down his hammer. I could see the gears turning. He's a blacksmith. His hands are his entire livelihood. If he can't swing a hammer, he's finished. Some other smith takes his spot, and he's out on the street. If you can really cure me, I'll give you the broadsword for free. No need for free. Just let me put it on a tab. Ahu tugged my sleeve, confused. Chinji, he said free. Why would you insist on paying? I just smiled. See, this is business 101. If I take the freebie, we're even. His debt to me for the treatment is paid, and next time I need something forged, I'm just another customer. But if I pay on credit, I cure his body and I pay for the sword later, which means he owes me a favor that doesn't get squared away so easily. For a hunter trying to build himself up from nothing, having a blacksmith who owes you, that's worth more than any discount. Old Lou led us through the back of the shop to a small room. It was bare, just a simple bed, no table, no chairs, nothing. He turned around. So what now? I pointed at the bed. Strip. Get on the bed. Face down. Old Lou was surprisingly obedient. Wiped off his sweat and flopped face down on the bed like a good patient. I cracked my knuckles, rubbed my palms together to warm them up, and, wham, slammed both hands onto his back. Before he could even flinch, I was already working. Neck, shoulders, lower back, top to bottom, professional bone setting technique. Realigning the skeleton, releasing joint pressure, decompressing the nerves and muscles to kill the pain and get everything functioning again. Within minutes I was drenched in sweat. This body is weak. My old body could have done this in my sleep, but this teenage hunter frame has the stamina of a wet noodle. And old Lou's muscles are basically made of iron from years of hammering, so every adjustment felt like trying to massage a boulder. Seriously, massage therapy is no joke. If it weren't for the gambling dad, the sick mom, the brother's school fees, and the baby at home, who'd willingly do this work? That's an old joke from my world, but it applies. The apprentice came in with a bundle of acupuncture needles. He looked at his master passed out cold on the bed, and his jaw nearly hit the floor. Apparently the guy hadn't slept properly in days. I had Ahu fetch me an oil lamp, sterilized the needles over the flame, and went to work. Kidney point, large intestine point, shoulder points, elbow points, hand points, needle after needle going in. By the time I was done, old Lou's back looked like a porcupine. Half an hour later, I carefully twisted each needle and pulled them out one by one. The second the last needle left his skin, he woke up. He sat up, rolled his shoulders, stretched his arms, straightened his back, and you could literally hear his bones popping and cracking back into place. The hunch was gone. He stood up perfectly straight. That's the stuff. He let out this massive roar of relief, then turned to me with eyes full of respect and gratitude. Sir, I was rude before. I had eyes but couldn't see greatness. I leaned against the wall, acting all weak and exhausted. Gotta milk the sympathy, and waved it off. Master Lu, it's fine. Please. Call me Tai Gang. Tai Gang. Lu Tai Gang. Iron Steel. This man was literally born to be a blacksmith. All right, Brother Tai Gang. Call me Xiao Chun. Brother Xiao Chun. So I'm cured. Not completely. If you want a full cure, you'd have to quit blacksmithing. But I've got a prescription that'll manage the symptoms and keep you working. I had Ahu grab paper and a brush and wrote out a formula. A bone-strengthening, blood-circulating, tendon-loosening herbal soup. Take 1 dose daily, split into 2 or 3 servings. Once you improve, drop to 1 dose every 2 or 3 days. You'll be fine. Tai Gang's calloused hands were shaking as he held the prescription. He immediately sent his apprentice running to the pharmacy. Then he pounded his chest. Brother Xiao Chun, you wanted a refined steel broadsword? I've got a premium piece of steel right here. I'll forge it myself, starting now. Inside I was doing backflips. A real weapon. Self-defense, hunting, tiger slaying. All suddenly possible. How long will it take? The way I feel right now? 2 hours, easy, perfect. I'll come back for it then. I turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, Brother Tai Gang, how much for refined steel arrowheads? Arrowheads. He waved his hand dismissively. Those are cheap. If you need some, I'll throw them in for free. Jackpot. Each arrowhead is worth close to 100 copper coins, but compared to literally saving the man's career, it's pocket change. He knows it, I know it. After leaving the blacksmith shop, Ahu was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. Shinji, since when do you know medicine? I know a lot of things. You'll find out eventually. Oh, thank God this kid doesn't ask follow-up questions. So we hit the shops. First stop, rice merchant. 2 gene of white rice. Because of the empire crumbling and bandits everywhere, rice prices are insane. 200 copper coins per gene. Highway robbery, but my wife needs actual food. Then I bought hinges, iron nails, and metal plating. Zhao Ming kicked my door down, remember? It's early summer, so the nights aren't cold, but sleeping with no front door is not exactly relaxing. I specifically did not buy the hardware from Tai Gang's shop. If I keep going back asking for free stuff, he'll think I'm a cheapskate trying to milk him, and the relationship is toast. After an hour of shopping, Ahu and I were loaded down with bags. Besides the door parts, I'd picked up some fine cotton cloth and half a gene of pork ribs. The cloth is for Gu Ning. The girl has a face and figure that belong in a palace, and she's walking around in scratchy burlap. That's a crime. I'll bring the cloth home and make her something decent. Better for her, better for my eyes. And the ribs. Ahu mentioned that while I was unconscious for 3 days, Gu Ning survived by digging up wild vegetables and tree roots. That's how she saved most of the rice for me. No wonder she looked unsteady on her feet. The girl was literally starving herself. So we're making rib soup tonight. Get some nutrition in her. Once she's healthy, we can, consummate the marriage. Priorities. Just like that, every last coin of Zhao Ming's money was spent. 1 liang in change, gone in an hour. Ahu looked at the pork ribs in my hand, swallowed hard, and asked, Shinji, where'd you get all this money? Zhao Ming gave it to me. His face was priceless. Zhao Ming, the guy who steals people's money? Giving you money? Does this kid think I'm an idiot? Before he could interrogate me, something caught my eye, the notice board outside the county magistrate's office. I walked over for a closer look. It was a list of bounties, jobs too tough for the regular officers. Each one had a reward listed next to it. The second one made my heart skip. Tiger bounty. Kill the tiger, bring the carcass to the magistrate, collect 20 liang of silver. 20 liang. That's enormous. With the 3 liang I owe Tai Gang, that still leaves 17. More than enough to clear the so-called debt and have money left over. Of course, nobody's taken the bounty. 20 liang is tempting, but it's hard to spend money when you're dead. Ahu, do I need to officially register to take this job, or can I just rip the poster off? Nope, Ahu said. Just bring proof you did the job. They'll verify it and pay you. Nice. No paperwork, no registration. I can take my time, get this body into decent shape first, then go kill the tiger when I'm ready. We headed back to the blacksmith shop, and Tai Gang came barreling over with a grin the size of a watermelon. Brother Xiao Chun. Perfect timing. Come see your blade. He pulled out the finished weapon, and I froze. This wasn't just a refined steel broadsword. This was a freaking Han Dynasty ring pommel saber. The real deal. Over 3 feet of straight blade with a single edge sharp enough to split a hair. The spine was thick as a finger joint, tapering from base to tip, built to take brutal punishment. The handle was wrapped in rough cowhide cord, and at the end dangled a fist-sized iron ring with a red tassel swinging from it. I grabbed it. Nearly 5 gene. Heavy, solid, perfectly balanced. I gave it a few swings, and the edge cut through the air like it was personally offended by it. This thing was a killing machine. The thick spine could take a direct hit without snapping, the single-edge design saved weight, and the ring kept it from flying out of your hand. Absolute perfection. Brother Tai Gang, how did you come up with this design? Because here's the thing. The Great Yu Empire's standard forging techniques don't include anything like a Han ring pommel saber. This shouldn't exist here. Tai Gang scratched his head sheepishly. Honestly, accident. That steel block was too hard. Normal forging would have cracked it. So I made the spine extra thick. But then the blade was too wide to swing comfortably, so I narrowed it down like a sword edge. And this is what came out. He looked at me nervously. You don't like it? Like it? Brother, this is a masterpiece, he practically glowed. Then he handed me a scabbard and a cloth bag. Here, I used the leftover steel to make your arrowheads. I pulled one out. Heavy, ice cold, gleaming with a wicked edge in the fading light. Normal iron arrowheads are basically disposable. Hit a rock or a bone, and they're bent garbage. But refined steel? These things could punch through a bear's skull and come out the other side looking for seconds. Brother Tai Gang, your craftsmanship is the best in all of North Liang. Huh, you flatter me, he said, clearly loving every word. Then as I was about to leave, he mentioned that Sun the pharmacist, the old guy he borrowed the acupuncture needles from, wanted to meet me. Apparently the old man heard I cured Tai Gang and nearly lost his mind. But he'd just rushed off to see a patient in the South District. Too bad. Having a pharmacist connection would be huge. I know bone setting and acupuncture, but I'm not a real doctor. Sooner or later I'll need professional medical help, especially in a job where getting mauled is an occupational hazard. Next time, I told Tai Gang. We'll meet eventually. By the time we left Ping'an County, the moon was hanging high. Ahu and I made our way back to the village by moonlight. At the village entrance, I took all the shopping bags off Ahu's back. Go tell your dad you're eating at my place tonight. I held up the pork ribs. A few drops of grease glistened through the oil paper. This kid's eyes locked onto that meat like a missile guidance system. His Adam's apple bobbed so hard I thought it would fly off. He wiped his mouth with his sleeve and sprinted home. Chinji, save me some. I'll be right back. I walked through the fence gate to find Gu Ning in the yard, hanging up wild vegetables to dry. She spun around, looked me over head to toe in the moonlight, checking for injuries, and only then did she exhale. Husband, she jogged over and knocked a bamboo basket off the bench, scattering wild greens everywhere. Clumsy, but adorable. Wifey, look what your husband brought home. I held up the pork ribs. The fat glistened amber under the moonlight. Inside, she opened the oil paper and her fingers started trembling. How much did this cost? She touched the white fat on the ribs like it was a bar of gold. Not much. I tossed the white rice on the table and dumped the hardware on the floor. Then I noticed her sleeve. A new patch, edges still fraying. She must have torn it on branches while digging up wild vegetables today. I shoved the cotton cloth into her arms. Make yourself a new outfit tomorrow. You married me, and I haven't even bought you clothes yet. That's not right. These are still wearable, she mumbled, but her fingers were already stroking the fine weave of the cloth, and her eyes were going red. She set the fabric gently on the bed like it was made of glass, then went for the rice bag. The moment she loosened the drawstring and saw white rice pour out, she yanked it shut in a panic. White rice. If we traded this for rough grain, it would last a whole month. I patted her head. Too much rough grain is bad for your health. Tonight, your husband cooks. She turned pink and physically blocked me from the kitchen, grabbing the ribs and rice. What kind of man cooks? Sit down and rest. I watched her disappear into the kitchen and sighed contentedly. Man, the ancient world is great. If I came home this late without warning in my old life, my wife would have skinned me alive. Here, she's grateful. While smoke curled up from the kitchen chimney, I leaned my new saber against the wall, crouched down, picked up all the scattered wild vegetables, and started measuring the doorframe. Took out the iron plates and nails and got to work fixing the door that Zhao Ming destroyed. Meanwhile, across town in the Zhang estate, things were considerably less cozy. The fat man himself, Zhang the Wealthy, was sitting in his private quarters, silk pajamas straining against his massive gut, candlelight flickering off his greasy face and the black mole on his chin. In front of him stood Zhao Ming, a hulking man literally shaking in his boots with one arm hanging limp. You can't even handle one sick kid, Zhang sneered. What good are you? Back at the Zhang estate, Zhao Ming was on his knees, trembling like a leaf, holding up his swollen purple wrist. Master, please. That kid's gone crazy. Look what he did to me. The fingerprints on his wrist were so deep they looked like he'd been squeezed by pliers. Crash. Zhang hurled a teapot at him. Hot water splashed everywhere. I don't want excuses. You have 2 days to bring me the goo girl. Or else. Zhao Ming crawled out on all fours, staring at his busted wrist, eyes turning cold and vicious. Xiao Chun, you forced my hand. After he left, Zhang clapped 3 times. A scar-faced thug stepped out from behind a door, cracking his knuckles loud enough to make your skin crawl. This guy was built like a fighter, nothing like the amateur village bully Zhao Ming. Want me to grab the girl tonight, boss? Zhang shook his head, jowls wobbling. The magistrate's watching. Can't be too obvious. But in 3 days, that magistrate leaves town for Jiangzhou City. On the road out, you intercept him and he drew a finger across his throat. Make it clean. Consider it done. Then a maid walked in with a basin of hot water. Zhang grabbed her wrist, sniffed her hair, and said something absolutely disgusting about Gu Ning that I won't repeat. The poor girl got yanked into the bathtub before she could even finish her sentence. This guy needs to die. Just putting that on the to-do list. Meanwhile, back at MY Place, I was having a much better evening. I'd finished reinforcing the door, hammered iron plating over the broken wood, secured it with nails and joints. Not pretty, but solid. I'm no carpenter, so the fact that it opened and closed with only a tiny squeak was basically a masterpiece by my standards. Then Gu Ning came out of the kitchen carrying a clay pot, and the smell, oh man. Pork rib soup. White, creamy broth with bones poking out, wild scallions floating in the oil, and 2 side dishes of stir-fried wild vegetables so green they were practically glowing. She'd rubbed the wok with pork fat first. Smart girl. Wifey, you're an amazing cook, she smiled and brought me warm water to wash my hands. Then she served me a heaping bowl of white rice and a full bowl of rib soup with 2 fat ribs sitting at the bottom. I glanced at her bowl. Clear broth. A few drops of oil. Not a single scrap of meat. Are you feeding yourself, or a canary? I put on my serious face and started chopsticking ribs into her bowl. She covered her bowl with both hands. I just sit at home all day. I don't need. I grabbed her chin, popped a piece of meat right into her mouth, and that was the end of that argument. The grease on her lips actually gave her face some color for once. Her eyelashes fluttered, and she looked at me with those big, watery eyes. Then she noticed sawdust on my eyebrow from fixing the door. Husband, you've got some wood shavings. Her warm fingertip touched my brow. I grabbed her wrist and yanked. She tumbled straight into my lap, arms instinctively wrapping around my neck. That faint scent of hers hit me, and I breathed it in deep. Her face was red as a ripe apple. She was pressed against my chest, half dazed. Husband, my throat went dry. I held her waist, staring at those slightly greasy lips glowing in the moonlight. The atmosphere was absolutely electric. Wifey, you're beautiful, I whispered. She went red all the way to her ears, eyes squeezed shut, lashes trembling in the night breeze, fingers clutching the back of my collar so tight her knuckles were white. They've been married a month, but the original Xiao Chun was too busy hunting every day to ever touch her. Tonight was about to be the night. Qinji, you have got to be kidding me. Ahu came crashing through the yard gate just as I was about to make my move. Gu Ning and I flew apart like magnets repelling. She ducked her head, smoothing her clothes, face on fire. I sat there staring at Ahu with the kind of expression usually reserved for people who kick puppies. I invited him. I literally told him to come eat dinner. This is entirely my own fault. The kid noticed nothing. Zero situational awareness. Absolutely oblivious. Shinji, am I late? He sniffed the air dramatically, then held up a small clay jug. I brought my dad's secret stash. He's been saving this wine for years. I exhaled slowly. Gave him a death glare he completely misinterpreted as a welcome. You're right on time. Sit down. Then to Gu Ning. Wifey, grab another set of bowls and chopsticks. She fled to the kitchen, still blushing. Ahu plopped down, stared at the rib soup, and started drooling openly. Gu Ning came back, served him rice, and the kid inhaled food like a vacuum cleaner. Slow down. If you choke to death, your dad will murder me. Gu Ning poured wine for both of us. Ahu wiped rice grains off his face, popped them back in his mouth, and grinned. Thanks, sister-in-law. I pulled Gu Ning down to sit and eat with us. She blushed again but smiled. A real, happy smile. The meal was honestly fantastic. Rich rib soup, crisp wild greens, rough sorghum wine. A feast by village standards. We ate until we were stuffed. After Gu Ning cleared the table, Ahu and I kept drinking. The kid's only 16, but he's built like a grown man. Still can't hold his liquor though. His already dark face went even darker. I waited for the perfect moment, draped my arm over his shoulder, and went in for the kill. Ahu, am I good to you? The best. No hesitation. The alcohol was talking. Better than my own dad, I smiled. The smile of a man whose trap has just sprung shut. Great. Then your big brother needs a favor. And no problem. Ahu jumped up, chest puffed out, pounding himself like a gorilla. Shinji's been so good to me. One favor? I'd do 10. I kept my face calm. Just one. Tomorrow morning, steal your dad's oxhorn bow for me. Thud. The kid collapsed back onto the stool like someone pulled the batteries out. His drunk haze evaporated instantly. Head shaking like a rattle drum. No. If my dad finds out, he'll kill me. Fair concern. That bow is the village chief's pride and joy. Last year, Uncle Wong just touched the thing, and the chief chased him 2 miles with a cleaver. Nearly took the man's head off over a fingerprint. Time for plan B, emotional manipulation. Come on, you're his only son. He'd never actually. You don't know him. All right. Plan C, guilt trip. I stood up slowly, turned away from him, and pretended to wipe my eye. I see. Guess we're just not that close after all. I let my voice crack a little. Really sold the disappointment. Forget it. Just pretend tonight's dinner was on the house. Shinji, you should go. His face went through about 16 colors. White, red, white again, a weird purple. The internal struggle was practically audible. Finally, he slammed his fist on the table, downed his entire bowl of wine in one gulp, and declared through gritted teeth. Fine. Tomorrow morning, I'll bring you the bow. Then he staggered out into the night. Look, I know that was a little dirty, but I need that bow. My current one is a piece of junk. Might as well throw rocks at the tiger. The village chief's longbow is legendary. When he was young, he killed an 8-foot-tall brown bear with 3 arrows. The bear's counterattack messed up his right arm permanently, so the bow's been hanging on his wall collecting dust ever since. But the weapon itself is still incredible. Could I just go ask to borrow it? No chance. The chief doesn't know I'm a transmigrator. From his perspective, my dad just got eaten by a tiger 3 days ago. If I show up asking for a weapon to go hunting, he'd refuse immediately. Not because he's stingy, but because he'd be trying to protect me. So, underhanded tactics it is. Gu Ning came out of the kitchen after Ahu left, looking worried. Husband, will Ahu be okay? The village chief has such a temper. He'll be fine. Worst case, a few whacks with a broom. The wine was hitting me now. My head felt heavy. I flopped down on the bed and noticed the cotton cloth I'd bought today still sitting there. Wifey, don't forget to make yourself new clothes tomorrow. She picked up the fabric like it was made of porcelain, handling it so gently it almost hurt to watch. She opened her mouth to say something. Probably, we should sell it, but stopped herself. I reached out, grabbed her arm, and pulled her into my arms. I know things have been hard. The old me let you suffer. That's over. I promise. She looked up at me with those trusting eyes and nodded. The candle flickered. Summer breeze drifted through the window. Moonlight on her face. In my past life, I was surrounded by money and weapons, but never let anyone close. Always guarded, always cold. Now here I am in a mud hut with 7 copper coins to my name. And for the first time ever, I actually feel something real. I looked at her. She looked at me. The mood was perfect. I started making my move, and she suddenly pushed me down flat on the bed. My heart rate spiked. Wait, is she? Does she want to take the lead? She reached over, grabbed the blanket, and gently tucked me in. Husband, you were unconscious for days. Just woke up and drank all that wine. You must be exhausted. Get some rest. I'll sleep in the other room. She turned and walked away, slim waist swaying under that rough cotton dress. Even in burlap, she looked like a painting. I stared at the ceiling. Rejected. Twice in one night. First by Ahu's timing, now by my own wife's concern for my health. She's not even doing it to be mean. She's genuinely worried. Plus, there's the whole crushing debt and Zhang breathing down our necks. Romance isn't exactly top of mind when a pervert landlord is trying to buy you. Gotta clear this debt fast, I muttered to myself, and then reclaim my dignity as a husband. Next morning, 3 a.m. Still dark out. I crept out of bed and eased the door open. Tiny squeak from the hinge, but since Gu Ning slept in the other room, she didn't hear. I stepped into the yard barefoot. The dirt was damp with morning dew, cold seeping up through my soles. Stars still out. Time to train. I planted my feet at 45 degrees, pigeon-toed, hands moving in slow circles like I was pressing down on a millstone. Upper body still, core rotating. 36, turns left. 36, turns right. Inhale through the nose, clench. Exhale through the mouth with a slow hiss. This is the foundational breathing technique from the Yellow Court Classic. At this hour, the lung meridian is at peak activity. By syncing my breathing to it, I can boost my body's baseline conditioning faster than any normal workout. It's basically a cheat code for building up a weak body. After about 15 minutes, my eyes were sharper, my limbs felt lighter, and a thin layer of sticky sweat had seeped out through my pores, toxins leaving the system. Phase 2. I stripped off my shirt, grabbed the ring pommel saber from the wall, and planted my feet in a fighting stance. Both hands overhead, blade forward. Twist the waist, drop the hips, and slash straight down. Exhale on the cut. Inhale on the lift. Over and over. This is the first form of the 8 breaking blows, splitting Mount Hua. The 8 breaking blows. A saber technique that combines 3 different historical sword manuals, originally used by the Northwest Army's broadsword squads. I never planned on learning it in my old life, but then Tai Gang accidentally forged a Han Dynasty ring pommel saber, and honestly, it's like the universe was screaming at me to practice this style. The technique was developed centuries after the Han Dynasty, but the core philosophy is identical to how Han cavalry fought the Xiongnu. High-speed charge, heavy chop, break through armor. Overpower with speed, crush with force. And the ring pommel saber's thick spine, forward-weighted balance, and ring counterweight are a perfect match. It's like finding a glove custom-made for your hand 1,000 years before your hand existed. I spent the rest of the morning drilling every form. The blade whistled through the air with each swing. By the time the first light crept over the horizon, I was drenched in sweat, but I felt amazing. Energized. Powerful. I wiped my forehead, set the saber against the wall, then grabbed a broom, dipped it in some mud dew mixture, and scrubbed down the acupressure points on my back and arms. The mud absorbs the sweat and toxins. Once it dried a little, I shook myself off like a dog. Husband, Gu Ning came out and found me covered head to toe in dirt. She immediately pulled out a handkerchief and started wiping my face. Let me heat some water for a bath. Sorry, did I wake you? She shook her head. I actually slept late today. Then she panicked, like I might be angry about it. I'll heat the water first, then make breakfast. Just give me a minute, poor thing. She'd been running on adrenaline and anxiety for 3 straight days while I was unconscious. Last night was probably the first real sleep she'd had in ages. She deserved it. I sighed, walked over to the well, and scooped up a bucket of cold water to wash off with. Good enough. Chen-ji, Ahu burst through the gate, morning dew flying off his feet, with a gorgeous brown bao strapped to his back. Got what you wanted. My heart nearly jumped out of my chest. I was grinning so hard my face hurt. The kid was still breathing heavy, a thin layer of panicked sweat on his forehead. He'd clearly sprinted the whole way before his dad could notice. I took the bao in both hands and the weight alone told me everything. This was the real deal. Made my wall-hanging piece of junk look like a toy. The body was carved from Een Mountain mulberry, dense, solid, with visible grain patterns. The arms were inlaid with Taihang water buffalo horn, polished to a warm gleam. On the inside, 2 tiny characters were carved, Jinshan, mountain shaker. 12 deer sinew strings caught the morning light like liquid amber. This was the legendary bow that made the village chief's name. Years ago, he carried this bow into the deep mountains and ran into an 8-foot brown bear in a pine forest. Without hesitation, 3 arrows, lightning fast. First arrow punched clean through the bear's paw and pinned it to frozen ground. Second arrow drilled straight through its eye. The bear screamed and charged. Third arrow buried itself to the feathers in the bear's throat. The bear's dying swipe caught the chief's shoulder and permanently damaged his arm, which is why the bow's been retired. But you can still see 5 deep claw marks gouged into the bow's body. The deepest ones go almost to the bearwood underneath. If the buffalo horn hadn't been hard as iron, the bow would have shattered and the chief would be dead. Huh, what a bow! I couldn't contain myself. I practically forgot who existed. Ran inside, grabbed an arrow, knocked it, drew, smooth as breathing, and let fly. Thwip! 6 doe of draw weight exploded forward. The arrow screamed through the air with a sound like a tiger's roar, punched clean through the wicker fence, and buried itself deep into the dirt on the other side. Only the tail feathers stuck out, still vibrating. With refined steel arrowheads on this thing, a bear wouldn't just be wounded, it'd be dead before it hit the ground. One shot. Shinji, please be careful with it. Ahu's eyebrows were scrunched together like caterpillars. If anything happens to it, my dad will literally murder me. He ducked his head into his shoulders, already picturing his father's rage. I clapped him on the shoulder. Relax. I'll guard it with my life. I kept him for breakfast, simple rice porridge, then got to work modifying my arrows. Carefully pried off the old iron arrowheads with a small knife and fitted the new refined steel ones. They were heavier, which meant I'd need more draw strength to keep them flying straight. Good thing I'd spent 2 full hours at dawn building up this body. My current strength was roughly 1/3 of what I had in my previous life, enough to make these arrows work. Guning came out and watched me with worried eyes, voice trembling slightly. Husband, the forest is so dangerous. Please be careful. Her father-in-law was killed by a tiger just days ago. She was terrified. If something happened to me, she'd said she wouldn't want to live either. I put down the arrows, walked over, and held her hand. Wifey, I'll be fine. I promise, she nodded, but the worry never left her eyes. Half an hour later, saber on my back, mountain shaker bow in hand, I said goodbye and headed west. Big ridge forest. The trees were so dense and tangled that sunlight barely leaked through. Morning fog crawled between the trunks like something alive. Beyond 50 paces, everything blurred into gray shapes and shadows. Time to hunt. Morning fog everywhere. The forest air was damp, and within 5 steps my pants were soaked from brushing against wet bushes. Great start to my hunting career. Near the base of the mountain, the bushes were loaded with wild, prickly pears. I popped one in my mouth, sweet, tangy, actually delicious. Immediately started picking more. Gotta bring some home for wifey. The thorns kept stabbing my fingers, but I didn't care. Filled up my belt pouch until it was bulging. Priorities. Wife snacks first, hunting second. Deeper in, the trees got denser, the air thick with pine resin. I kept myself in check though, no going too deep. A few days ago, a tiger in this forest ate my predecessor's dad and literally scared the original owner of this body to death. My current strength is nowhere near peak. If I bumped into that tiger right now, the only move would be running. And possibly screaming. Then I spotted something on the ground. Small round droppings, still moist. I crouched down and poked them apart with a stick. Grass fibers, round pellets. Rabbit colony. Passed through recently. I grinned. Look, I wasn't expecting to stumble into a deer or a bear on day one. A few rabbits? That's a solid haul for a first trip. I got to work fast. Untied the hemp rope from my waist, drew my saber, and chopped down a few dogwood branches, nice and springy. Bent them into half moons and jammed them into the dirt along the animal trail. Then I tied hemp rope into slip knots and hung them about 8 inches off the ground, exactly the height of a running rabbit's neck. 5 traps. Done in minutes. I was setting up number 6 when the bushes to the east started rustling. I vanished behind a tree so fast I probably left an afterimage. Mountain shaker bow up, regular arrows knocked, ready to fire. Gray shapes darted through the underbrush. 4 or 5 wild rabbits, running straight toward my trap zone. The lead buck suddenly froze, stood up on its hind legs, nose twitching like crazy, scanning for danger. Clever little jerk. The second he started to turn, I let an arrow fly. Thwip! The arrow slammed into a tree trunk right next to the rabbits, sending wood chips flying everywhere. Did I miss? No, I wasn't trying to hit them. If I wanted dead rabbits, I'd need way more arrows than I have. What I wanted was panicked rabbits. Mission accomplished. The whole group freaked out and bolted directly into my trap zone. Snap! One of the dogwood branches sprung up and the slipknot caught a rabbit's hind legs. The thing went absolutely berserk, kicking and thrashing, which only made the knot tighter. I sprinted over, grabbed it by the back of the neck, and twisted. Quick, clean snap. The body was still twitching warm. Second trap caught one too. Same treatment. Next snap. Hung it on my belt. 5 traps, 2 rabbits. The other 2 traps got wrecked by the stampede. Not bad for improvised gear, but not amazing either. Rabbit meat is tasty, but you can't live on it. Eat only rabbit long enough and you get rabbit starvation. No fat, no carbs. Your body starts eating its own muscles for energy, and you end up hungrier than before. Then I heard it. A sharp snort. Quick, heavy breathing. Close. Every nerve in my body fired at once. Arrow on the string, bow up, eyes scanning. There, maybe 30 paces ahead. A young deer. Not fully grown, ears pricked straight up, eyes wide, completely spooked by the fleeing rabbits. Well, hello there. I swapped out the regular arrow for a refined steel-tipped one. Crouched low, crept forward tree by tree, barely breathing. Got behind a thick trunk, drew the mountain shaker to full draw, every muscle locked. Release. The steel arrow screamed through the air and hit the deer dead in the flank. But the arrow went clean through. In one side, out the other, and buried itself in the dirt behind the deer. The thing barely even registered the pain before its legs were already moving. It bolted. Oh no you don't. I lunged forward, yanked the blood-soaked arrow out of the ground, and took off after it. A steel arrow through the gut? That deer's running on adrenaline and nothing else. It won't get far. Meanwhile, back at home, Guning was staring at the cotton cloth I bought her. She touched it, ran her fingers over the weave, clearly wanted to make that new outfit, then quietly closed the cabinet, picked up her basket and hoe and headed out to dig wild vegetables instead. She doesn't know that from a shadowy corner nearby, Zhao Ming's bald head was gleaming in the sunlight like a polished bowling ball of evil. His beady eyes were locked on her every move. Boss, let's just grab her, one of his lackeys whispered, practically drooling. Shut up, Zhao Ming hissed. If we could just grab her, would I be standing here like an idiot? He glanced toward the forest where I'd gone, eyes narrowing. That sick little punk actually went hunting again. Not afraid of getting eaten, huh? He turned to his boys with a cold smile, yellow teeth glinting. Tomorrow, round up some extra men. If he goes into that forest again, make sure he doesn't come back. His goons nodded, grinning like hyenas. Then Zhao Ming looked back at our little shack, mouth splitting into an ugly grin. But first, let's send him a welcoming gift. By mid-morning I was drenched in sweat, hunched over a tree trunk, gasping like a dying fish. I'd been chasing this wounded deer for over a mile. Shot clean through the gut with a steel arrow, and the thing was still running. Dense forest, no breeze, felt like jogging inside an oven. Plus I've got a saber on my back, the mountain shaker bow in hand, steel arrowheads, a pouch of prickly pears, and 2 dead rabbits hanging off my belt. Not exactly traveling light. How are you still going? I put a hole through you. I followed the blood trail another half-mile until I finally spotted it, collapsed on a bed of dead leaves. There you are. I stepped forward and wait. There was a red fox already elbow-deep in the deer's guts, face covered in blood, chomping away like it had a reservation. Hey, where'd you come from? That's my kill, you furry little thief. I wasn't about to haul an extra fox carcass out of here. The deer alone was 70 or 80 gene. So I just drew my saber, gave it a threatening wave, and the fox bolted. Merciful today, I reached for the antlers and, crack, a sound from directly above my head. I looked up. A massive spotted snake was coiled around a branch, its red tongue flicking at my face from about 2 feet away. Oh, you want some too? One flash of the blade. Snake head went flying 10 feet in one direction, body in the other. Done. Snake meat is actually pretty good eating, but I had zero energy left to carry an extra 30 pounds of reptile. Had to leave it. Painful. I stood there and took stock. Rabbits, deer, fox, snake. This forest was basically running a delivery service today. If I'd known, I would have brought Ahu to help carry stuff. Wonder if anything else wants to show up? Ruahar. A tiger roar split the forest like thunder. Birds exploded from every tree in a 100-meter radius. The mountain shaker's bowstring hummed from the vibration alone. Cold sweat instantly covered my entire body. I was joking. I couldn't see it, but just that one roar was enough to freeze every living thing in the forest solid. King of beasts indeed. The deer blood had probably drifted on the wind and caught its attention. Based on the sound, it wasn't super close, but close enough. I sheathed my blade, threw 80 pounds of dead deer onto my shoulders, and ran. No way was I fighting a tiger right now. After chasing that deer for a mile through sauna-temperature forest, I was running on fumes. Fighting the tiger in this state would be suicide. One more day of training, get my body up to 2/3 of my old strength, then I'll come back with full prep and put that cat down. I kept checking behind me as I moved. No tiger in sight. The birds on the branches were calmly preening their feathers. No danger nearby. I finally exhaled. Thud. I dumped the deer on the ground and collapsed spread eagle, staring up at the dappled sunlight through the leaves. Popped a few prickly pears in my mouth. Sweet, wet, barely enough. Being a hunter is harder than being an assassin. At least assassins get to ride in cars. Bawk, 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 bawk. Chicken noises. I ignored them. If I let a fox go free, I'm definitely not chasing a chicken. But the clucking wouldn't stop. Frantic flapping, desperate struggling sounds. I sat up and looked around. About 15 meters ahead, right where I'd set my rabbit traps this morning, a wild hen had stepped directly into my last remaining snare. Its foot was caught in the loop, and no amount of flapping was getting it free. A live hen. I rushed over and grabbed it by the wings. Brown feathers, small body, fine speckled pattern. Female, meaning she can lay eggs. I did not kill this one. Instead, I tied her feet and wings with hemp rope and hung her upside down from the deer's antlers. A living egg factory is worth way more than one meal of chicken. Then I heaved the deer back onto my shoulders. Deep breath, core engaged, lift, and started the long walk home. By late afternoon, I emerged from the treeline. Deer blood dripping down my back, a live chicken flapping upside down from the antlers, 2 glossy rabbits swinging from my belt. I must have looked like the world's most aggressive grocery delivery. At the village entrance, a group of women were doing laundry by the creek. Good heavens! Aunt Lou's washing paddle went sideways, splashing water all over her skirt. The Shao boy killed a deer. With the tiger problem, most hunters had stopped going into the forest entirely. And deer live deep in. Nobody goes that far anymore. 7 or 8 women stopped mid-wash, mouths hanging open. Then Widow Wong came sauntering over. 3 years widowed, but her figure was. Let's just say she hadn't let herself go. She ran a fingertip down my collar and purred. My, what a strong body you have. I've never tasted deer meat before. Aunt Lou snorted from behind. It's not the meat you're hungry for, is it? Hush. Widow Wong bent down to pick up a cloth sheet. Accidentally. Dropped. Collar conveniently falling open. Curves on full display. Last night, I dreamed you barged into my room. And when I woke up, He has a wife. Aunt Zhang marched over and snatched the cloth away. What are you doing talking about dreams in broad daylight? Who said ancient China was conservative? This woman was hitting on me in public, in daylight, in front of 7 other women. I'm a married man carrying a bleeding deer carcass. Is nothing sacred? I started to say something, anything, when Ahu came sprinting from the village, face white as a sheet. Chinji, come home quick. Sister-in-law, my pupils contracted to pinpoints. The deer crashed to the ground. In one step, I'd already cleared 10 feet and was flying toward home. Jiu Ning, I was screaming her name 100 meters out, voice cracking through the summer heat. I slammed through the fence gate, and my blood went cold. She was crouched in the dirt, shaking, picking up trampled wild vegetables with trembling fingers. Tears rolling down her pale cheeks, dropping into the mud. Husband, she was clutching a handful of ruined vegetable leaves so hard her knuckles had gone white. I crossed the yard in one step and pulled her into my arms. Her whole body was shivering. Her back was ice cold through the thin fabric. It's okay. I'm here now. I looked around. The door I'd just fixed last night, kicked crooked again. Inside, the table and stools were smashed to pieces, with chips everywhere. Every single wild vegetable Gu Ning had spent the day digging up was stomped flat into the mud. My fists clenched so hard my knuckles cracked. Zhao Ming. Obviously. Who else does petty destruction like a spiteful toddler with a skinning knife? But if he's already going this far, why not just burn the house down? He must be worried about something, probably the magistrate. That means there's still a line he won't cross. Yet. Hey, no more crying. I wiped the tears off her face with my thumb. Look what your husband brought home. I sat her down on the stone step, pulled out a handful of prickly pears, rubbed off the thorns, and held them to her lips. Try one. They're sweet. She took a bite and cried harder. The fruit was sweet, but apparently her heart was bitter. The pots, she choked out between sobs. They smashed the pots. And the white rice. And the pork ribs. Those animals destroyed our food. The rice I spent good money on, the leftover ribs, gone. My chest tightened like someone was squeezing it. Bang! The fence gate crashed open. Shinji. Ahu staggered in carrying the deer carcass on his back and dropped it with a thud that sent dust flying everywhere. You can't just leave this in the middle of the road. Oh right. I dropped 80 pounds of dead deer the second I heard Gu Ning was in trouble. Forgot it existed. Gu Ning stared at the deer, antlers catching the sunlight. Her tear-soaked lashes blinked. Husband, you hunted this. I shrugged, gave her my best cocky grin. Weirdest thing, rabbits, pheasants, deer, they were all lining up today. Couldn't keep them away from me. She burst out laughing through her tears and swatted my arm. You're shameless. Ahu rolled his eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck. His face screamed. Shinji, you are so full of it. I set down the saber and bow, untied the rabbits, and pulled the live hen off the deer's antlers. Retied her feet and leashed her to the doorframe. Then I looked at the trampled vegetables and had a stroke of genius. See? Your wild vegetables weren't wasted at all. I pointed at the hen. Chicken feed. She might lay us an egg by tonight. Gu Ning finally cracked a real smile. But it faded quick. The cooking pots are all. If you don't mind, I happen to have a spare set. A silky voice floated in from the gate. My scalp tingled. Widow Wong was leaning against the fence, one hip cocked, the rough fabric of her clothes somehow doing absolutely nothing to hide her figure. She glided over trailing perfume in a breeze that I'm pretty sure she manufactured on purpose. I've got extra cookware at home. She leaned in close enough that I could smell flowers. You wouldn't refuse little old me, would you? I stepped back half a pace. Of course not. Ha ha. Her eyes landed on the deer and literally sparkled. She smoothed her collar like it was an accident, then dropped the bomb. Have you ever considered taking a concubine? She poked the deer carcass with one delicate finger. Half a deer is a bride price. By this time next year, I'll have you holding a fat baby. I nearly choked on my own spit. This woman has zero chill. I glanced at Gu Ning, expecting fury. Instead, she blinked those clear eyes and said, I don't mind. What? Widow Wong's grin stretched ear to ear. She bent to adjust her skirt, and her collar happened to slip just so. See? Even your little wife agrees. I gave Gu Ning a light smack on the backside. Say something like that again and see what happens. She yelped, covered her rear, and dodged away, face exploding red from cheeks to ear tips. Widow Wong was cackling, everything bouncing. Fine, fine, I'll stop teasing. Let me go get those pots. She sashayed away with even more hip action than when she arrived, which I didn't think was physically possible. I wiped imaginary sweat off my forehead. That woman is a force of nature. Oh, Ahu suddenly shouted, snatched the mountain shaker bow off the ground, and bolted for the door. If I don't get this back now, my dad's gonna skin me. The sun was already going down. The kid was drenched in panic sweat. He'd seen his father angry before, and apparently it was scarier than a charging boar. I already know. A deep voice boomed from the doorway. Village Chief Zhou Ye's massive frame blocked out the sunset like an eclipse. Ahu's legs buckled instantly. He dropped to his knees. Dad, I'm sorry. I stepped forward quick. Uncle Zhou, this was my idea. Blame me. He didn't respond. Those sharp old eyes swept over to the deer on the ground. He crouched down, parted the wound on its belly with rough fingers, and his brow furrowed deeper and deeper. You did this? Yes. He stood up, wiped the blood off his hand. Show me your arrows. My heart jumped. Old hunter instincts. This guy took one look at the wound and knew no ordinary arrow did that. The entry hole was too clean, the penetration too deep. I respectfully pulled out a steel-tipped arrow and held it out with both hands. The refined steel had gleamed cold in the fading sunlight. He weighed the arrow in his palm. Something flickered behind his eyes. He looked at his kneeling son, then at me, then at the bow in Ahu's hands. And then he sighed. To everyone's shock, he bent down, picked up the mountain shaker bow, and held it out to me, bow and arrow together. It's yours. Keep it. What? Ahu and I screamed at the exact same time. The sparrows on the roof nearly had heart attacks. I stood there frozen, gripping the mountain shaker so tight my knuckles went white. Ahu's jaw literally hit the ground. He stared at his father like the man had been possessed by a demon. Dad, are you cursed? Did someone hex you? Zhou shot him a look that could curdle milk. Then his rough hand slowly ran across the bow one last time. Tender, almost sad, like saying goodbye to an old lover. A man has to accept when he's past his prime, he said, voice rumbling low from deep in his chest. Better this bow goes to someone who can actually use it than sits on my wall collecting dust. The bow suddenly felt 10 times heavier in my hands. The string hummed softly in the evening breeze, like it was whispering farewell to its old master. My throat tightened. Uncle Zhou, I swear I won't dishonor it. I believe you. He clapped me on the shoulder so hard I nearly face-planted. His palm was rough as tree bark, but warm. Since you're here, stay for deer meat. Ha. Don't mind if I do. His laugh scattered every bird within earshot. Ahu was still on his knees. Dad, can I get up now? Zhou side-eyed him and snorted. Get up and make yourself useful. The kid spring-loaded off the ground like he'd been launched from a catapult and immediately grabbed the rabbits. Shinji, let's roast these too. His stomach growled on cue. I pointed at the rabbit fur. Skin them carefully. Don't ruin the pelts. I'm saving them to make your sister-in-law a winter coat. Got it. Ahu pulled out his small knife and went to work. I have to say, watching this kid skin a rabbit was like watching an artist paint. One fluid cut along the hind leg, fingers peeling fur back, without a single drop of blood touching the pelt. Flawless. You missed your calling as a butcher, I told him. Oh, Chinjir, Widow Wang's honeyed voice drifted in from the gate. She was hugging a massive iron cooking pot, bangs plastered to her forehead with sweat, collar hanging open enough to make Zhou suddenly develop an intense fascination with the deer carcass on the ground. Gu Ning rushed over to help. Not just a pot. Widow Wang had brought a full set of bowls and chopsticks, all nicer than what we'd had before. Oh my, I'm exhausted. She fanned herself dramatically, chest heaving with each breath. Zhou coughed and turned around so fast, he almost gave himself whiplash. I rubbed my nose awkwardly. Sister Wang, stay for dinner? I thought you'd never ask. She grabbed Gu Ning's arm and dragged her toward the kitchen. Come on, little sister. Let's get that stove cleaned up. As dusk settled in and the cicadas cranked up their volume, Zhou supervised while Ahu and I butchered the deer. When we got to the antlers, I was extra careful, nearly 5 inches of velvet antler, soft and valuable. So, Xiao-chun, Zhou stroked his beard, examining the slight damage where I'd dropped the deer earlier. These antlers, keeping them or selling? I'd been planning to eat them myself for a body-strengthening boost. But, how much could I get? Zhou squinted like an old fox appraising a gem. Shame about this little nick. Would have fetched more. But, he held up 2 fingers. 20 liang. Shouldn't be a problem. 20? I almost dropped them. 20 liang. That clears the entire debt, covers taxes, and leaves enough to buy Gu Ning several outfits. Combined with the bounty from killing the tiger later, I'd be set. Zhou saw me spiraling and patted my shoulder. No rush. Think it over. Then we got to a certain part of the male deer. Zhou nudged me, grinning like a dirty uncle at a wedding. Save this one. Soak it in wine. He nodded toward the kitchen and lowered his voice. Young man like you. There'll be a time you need it. Excuse me? I'm a young man in his prime. I do not need deer part wine to perform. The very suggestion is an insult to my manhood, that I kept it though. Just in case. For research purposes. Soon the kitchen was pumping out incredible smells. Roasted deer legs sizzling over charcoal, fat dripping into the fire, blue smoke curling up into the evening sky. Zhou stood next to me, hands behind his back, watching the stars come out. Then his voice dropped low and serious. Xiao-chun, You know who did this? He nodded toward my wrecked house. Zhao Meng. My voice came out cold enough to frost glass. No one else. What are you going to do about it? I smiled. Not a warm smile. He's not registered as an East Ditch villager anymore, right? Zhou Yi shook his head. No. Then it's simple. Something cold flickered behind my eyes. When you have an enemy, the best solution is to make him disappear. Permanently. Zhou Ye's eyebrow twitched. Clearly didn't expect that from me. He was quiet for a moment. Then his heavy hand pressed down on my shoulder. Kid, I need to warn you. Zhao Meng has someone behind him. Zhang the landlord? Not just him. His voice went so low it was barely above a whisper, like he was afraid of disturbing something that shouldn't be disturbed. There's someone behind Zhang too. Someone behind Zhang? Who? Zhou Yi didn't answer. He sat down on the stone step, picked up a stick, and scratched a single character in the dirt. County. Then he wiped it away with his foot. My stomach dropped. The county magistrate. Zhang's backer is the freaking county magistrate. No wonder that fat pig acts like he owns the world. His sugar daddy is literally the law around here. Pinyin County is so far from the capital that the magistrate is basically a mini emperor. And with the empire falling apart and the court too busy putting out fires to care about the frontier, this guy has zero oversight. Absolute power, zero accountability. Getting on his bad side would mean I can't even stay in the village, let alone the town. For about 30 seconds, I seriously considered sneaking into the magistrate's office on a dark night and solving the problem permanently. Old habits die hard. Zhou Yi read my mind. Don't worry too much. Even the magistrate has someone he's afraid of. Afraid of? Who? Someone in Pinyin County outranks the county magistrate. He gave me a mysterious smile and said nothing. Before I could push further, Gu Ning called from the kitchen. Husband. Uncle Zhou. Dinner's ready. Zhou Yi patted my shoulder with a meaningful look and walked inside. I stared at his back, mind spinning. Ahu came trotting in with a jar of rice wine. This time with his father's actual permission, so no sneaking required. Inside, the feast was glorious. Roasted deer leg crackling and dripping fat over the coals. Gu Ning came out carrying a huge plate of stir-fried deer meat with wild greens, steam rising, face flushed pink from the kitchen heat, with a little smudge of soot on her nose. Adorable. Widow Wang sashayed in behind her, carrying 2 bowls of wild vegetable soup, her collar doing its usual swaying routine. Little sister Gu Ning has such talent. This deer meat is perfectly tender, not dry at all. I took the plate, inhaled deeply, and grinned. My wife's cooking is always top tier. Gu Ning blushed. Try it first. Is the salt right? I picked up a piece of deer meat. The second it hit my tongue, an explosion of flavor. Crispy sear on the outside, melt in your mouth tender inside, savory with a hint of wild sweetness and mountain herb fragrance. I almost swallowed my own tongue. I kept a straight face, chewing slowly, just to watch Gu Ning squirm. Her eyes got bigger and bigger, fingers twisting her sleeve, on the verge of tears, and then I broke into a smile. Incredible. Best cook in the world. She exhaled so hard she nearly deflated. Red cheeks, shy smile. Worth every second of torment. Then Widow Wang leaned in close to my ear and whispered, "You know what makes a good wife even better? Being more attentive." At night, I nearly choked to death on deer meat. Grabbed the soup bowl to hide my face. This woman has no filter. Ahem. Zhou Yi spluttered on his wine, face turning crimson. Wang woman, if you've got nothing useful to say, go home and copy the book of female virtue a few hundred times. Ahu looked up from the deer leg he was demolishing. Dad, what's the book of female virtue? Can you eat it? Smack. Zhou Yi cuffed him on the back of the head. Shut up and eat. Gu Ning stifled a laugh and put more meat on my plate. Husband, eat more. You must be exhausted from today. I suddenly remembered something. Wifey, the cotton cloth. It's still there, right? She nodded. I hid it under a broken cloth at the bottom of the cabinet before I left this morning. They didn't find it. Thank God. One thing Zhao Meng's goons didn't destroy. I turned to Widow Wang. Sister Wang, I hear your needlework is excellent. Could you use that cloth to make my wife a new outfit? Her eyes lit up, but her voice went sour-sweet. Oh my, how devoted you are to your little wife. She raised her hands elegantly, wiggling her fingers. These hands can do embroidery, tailoring, and many other things that are quite. She trailed off into a suggestive laugh. I looked at Zhou Yi for help. He waved both hands frantically. Don't look at me. Ahu's mother died years ago. I've been perfectly clean. I know nothing about this woman's talents. Widow Wang shot him a look. As if I'd waste my time on a rough bear like you. Ahu snickered and got another smack. 3 rounds of wine later, the deer leg was nothing but clean bone. Ahu leaned back, rubbed his round belly, and burped. Sister-in-law's cooking is divine. Even the scraps between the bones taste amazing. He licked his fingers for emphasis. Zhou Ye's face was beet red from the wine. He stood up, nearly tripped over his stool, caught the table just in time, and squinted at the moon through the window. See, Comrade Chun. Old buddy. It's getting late. Your big brother's heading home. I tried to stand. My legs buckled and I sat right back down. Widow Wang burst out laughing. Be big brother, safe travels. I slurred, attempting a formal salute bow, immediately tipping sideways. Guning caught me just in time. Ahu grabbed his father's arm, half laughing, half crying. Dad, you just called yourself his brother. You're a whole generation above him. You've completely scrambled the family tree. Zhou Yi swatted the air, breath 90% alcohol. Scrambled? Nothing scrambled. Chun and I are kindred spirits. He turned back to me one last time. Keep that deerskin and sinew safe. And the deer whip, huge belch. Have Ahu bring more wine tomorrow. Soak it longer. More potent that way. I nodded solemnly. Thank you, big brother. I bowed again and almost face-planted into the floor. Guning yanked me upright. Widow Wang was doubled over, everything jiggling. 2 drunk idiots calling each other brother. I'm going to die laughing. She smoothed her skirt, gave me one last lingering look. Well then, little brother, I should also. Sister Wang. Wait. I stumbled to the stove and grabbed 2 wrapped pieces of deer meat I'd set aside. For lending us the cookware. Take these. She pretended to refuse. Oh, I couldn't possibly, while her hands were already grabbing the meat and sneaking a stroke across the back of my hand. I'll come for the cloth tomorrow. Your wife will have the trendiest outfit in the village. She winked at Guning. And if you want to learn anything special, Big Sister's door is always open. Guning dropped an entire handful of chopsticks. They clattered across the floor as she crouched down, ears burning scarlet. After everyone left, I found Guning passed out on the bed, flushed pink from the wine, face soft as a ripe peach. I smiled, covered her with the blanket, then quietly fixed the door again and reinforced the furniture. Sawdust everywhere. My hands were basically made of splinters at this point. Late at night, lying in bed, I couldn't sleep. The wine had my brain buzzing. Who is the magistrate afraid of? Why did Zhou Yi stop himself from telling me? Is he protecting the village's peace? Or protecting me from knowing too much too soon? These questions circled my head like mosquitoes on a summer night, buzzing and refusing to shut up. Next morning, 3 a.m. again. Same routine. 2 hours of training in the yard, breathing exercises, saber drills, the works. By the time the first light hit the horizon, I was drenched, but feeling noticeably stronger than yesterday. Still not back to my old peak, but getting there. Guning appeared at the door in her sleepy state, holding a warm towel. Wipe your sweat. I took the towel and yanked her into my arms. You're all sweaty, oh? My wife is disgusted by me now. I nuzzled into her neck, leaving a nice wet streak. She turned crimson and pounded my chest. You're terrible. Breakfast is ready. Go eat. I wolfed down the porridge, strapped on the saber, grabbed the mountain shaker, and headed out. But first, wifey, when Sister Wang comes for the cloth, go with her. Stay at her place. I didn't say why, but we both knew. If Xiaoming showed up again while I was gone. She fixed my belt pouch with trembling fingers. Please be careful. The tiger. I pinched her nose. A tiger? Your husband doesn't even consider that a challenge. Big talk. But I walked out feeling good. What I didn't notice was Zhao Meng lurking behind the old tree at the village entrance, watching me leave with those snake eyes of his. Boss, yesterday's warning didn't work. One of his goons snickered. Zhao Meng snorted. Won't drink the nice wine? Fine. He can drink the punishment wine. Another thug rubbed his hands together. Let's just torch his house. Smack. Zhao Meng slapped him upside the head. Idiot. How many times do I have to say it? We are upstanding citizens. He squinted those little triangle eyes and smiled like a cobra. Follow him. Wait till there's nobody around. Dig a hole. Fill it in. They followed me into the forest. I knew within 30 seconds. The footsteps behind me were so loud and clumsy they might as well have been wearing bells. These guys had all the stealth of a marching band. I smiled to myself. You want to play? Let's play. I took off running deeper into the forest, fast as lightning. SHT. He spotted us, Zhao Ming screamed. Chase him. If he walks out of this forest alive today, I'll take his last name. One of his boys scratched his head. Zhao Ming? That actually doesn't sound bad. Shut up and run. They chased me for a while, then lost me completely. I'd vanished into the undergrowth like smoke. Zhao Ming was spinning in circles, furious. Where the hell did he go? Is this kid a ghost? AAGH, one of his thugs screamed. A sharpened wooden stake I'd rigged earlier sprang up from the ground and punched straight through his chest, dead before he hit the dirt. Welcome to MY World, boys. You followed a trained assassin into a forest. How did you think this was going to go? Xiao Chun, Zhao Ming roared. Come out and fight like a man, you coward. I crouched in the shadows, face blank, eyes cold. An assassin doesn't respond to taunts. An assassin responds to opportunities. I raised the mountain shaker, knocked a regular arrow. No need to waste the good steel on these clowns, and aimed at the thug standing next to Zhao Ming. Thwip. Arrow through the throat. Blood fountain. Gurgle. Collapse. Over there, Zhao Ming charged toward where the arrow came from. I was already somewhere else. Drew again. Released. Another thug took an arrow clean through the chest. The force pinned him to a tree trunk behind him like a mounted butterfly. Just like that, Zhao Ming was down to 2 guys. Both of them white as ghosts, legs shaking so bad they could barely stand. Die. Zhao Ming spotted me and charged with his broadsword. I put away the bow and drew my saber. Clang. Sparks exploded. I hit him with splitting Mount Hua. First form, full power, straight down. The impact rattled his arms so hard he stumbled back several steps, completely overpowered. While he was staggering, I blurred sideways toward his last 2 henchmen. One slash, throat opened, blood spraying. I was already gone before the body fell. Perfect assassin doctrine. Strike once, vanish. Get back here, Zhao Ming screamed, eyes bloodshot, and tore after me. He didn't even notice the arrow that silently sailed out of nowhere and drilled through his last remaining thug's neck. The guy stared forward in disbelief and toppled over. Zhao Ming was alone now. Every single one of his men, dead. He was charging through the forest like a rabid animal, hacking branches and bushes with his sword, cursing with every breath. I led him deeper until we reached an open clearing. Then I stopped and turned around. Nice spot. My voice was so calm it was practically a lullaby. Good feng shui. Makes a decent grave. Consider it a parting gift. He spat on the ground. FCKU. I should be saying that to you. He charged. We clashed again, and again, and again, but this wasn't even close to a fair fight. Every strike of mine was surgical, precise, vicious, efficient. Zhao Ming was all fury and no skill. Within a few exchanges, he was bleeding from 6 cuts, his clothes soaked red. You kicked down my door. Again, you made my wife cry. This debt? I'm collecting it in blood. I raised the saber high. Sunlight cut through the fog and the treetops, catching the blade, making it glow like a crescent moon of death. One more swing, and it's over. Then a chill shot up from the bottom of my feet straight to the top of my skull. Every assassin instinct I had went haywire. Alarm bells, red alerts, every danger sensor screaming at maximum volume. I jumped back instantly. Zhao Ming froze too. The rage drained from his face, replaced by something I'd never seen on him before, raw, primal terror. Ruo error. The sound hit us like a physical wall. My eardrums nearly burst. Trees shook. Leaves rained down in sheets. Every bird in a quarter-mile radius launched skyward in a single panicked black cloud. My knuckles went white on the saber grip. The tiger. Zhao Ming was half kneeling in the dirt, coughing blood, barely holding himself up with his sword. The guy was done, multiple cuts, bleeding everywhere. Not getting out of this alive, and he knew it. He looked at me, then at the direction that roar came from, and something snapped behind his eyes. If I'm dying anyway, his left hand scooped up a fistful of gravel. I'm taking you with me. He hurled the rocks at my face and charged behind them. Blade aimed straight at my heart. I dodged sideways, and in that exact instant, the bushes to my right exploded. A blur of black and gold rocketed out of the undergrowth like a striped freight train. The tiger caught Zhao Ming's sword arm in its jaws, and, RRIP, tore the entire arm clean off his body. Just gone. Like pulling a drumstick off a chicken. My AO arm. He went down thrashing in a spreading pool of red. The tiger casually tossed the arm aside like trash, blood-soaked whiskers twitching, those massive copper coin eyes swinging between me and the screaming meatball on the ground. I froze, every muscle locked. My right hand crept slowly toward the mountain shaker on my back while I studied the beast. Shoulder height, nearly 4 feet. Mud and blood streaked across its orange-brown coat. But its eyes were intact, both of them. The tiger that killed my predecessor's father had 3 claw scars across its left eye. This was a different tiger. Great. There's more than one. Zhao Ming was rolling around in his own blood, face twisted beyond recognition. He looked up at me with desperate eyes. Save. Save me. We're from the same village. I drove my saber into the dirt next to me. The handle vibrated. The day you looked at my wife, I said, voice colder than the steel, you should have known this was coming. Roar. The tiger bit down on Zhao Ming's head and twisted. The sound of his skull cracking was like biting into a walnut. Clean. Final. While it was busy, I pressed my back against a pine tree and drew 3 steel-tipped arrows. The arrowheads gleamed in the shadows like evil stars. Running wasn't an option. Nothing escapes a tiger's notice in its own territory. One wrong step, and I'd trigger a chase response. At least standing my ground gave me a chance. The tiger dropped Zhao Ming's shredded remains and started on his thigh. I waited for the exact moment its head was down. Now? 3 arrows, rapid fire, triangle pattern. 2 aimed at the eyes, 1 at the throat. The tiger roared and jerked its head sideways. Both eye shots missed, but the 3rd arrow punched through its front leg joint. Steel tip went through fur, muscle, and wedged into bone. The beast screamed and reared up on its hind legs. Over 2 meters tall, it blocked out the sky. I dropped the bow and ripped out my saber, just in time to catch a massive paw swinging at my skull. Clang. The impact sent electric shockwaves up both arms. I skidded back 2 steps, hands numb. If I hadn't spent the last 2 mornings training, that single hit would have snapped my wrists. The tiger landed and stumbled on its wounded leg. There, an opening. I lunged. My blade slashed horizontal across its belly, almost connecting, but that iron-whipped tail came around and caught me across the waist. Son of a... I rolled away. My side was on fire, but it was just a surface wound. Skin deep. Keep moving. The tiger pounced again. I bent backward, iron bridge move, and slashed upward as it flew over me. Half a foot of gash opened across its chest, but its momentum still slammed into me and launched me into an oak tree. My spine hit bark so hard I saw white. It charged again, jaws wide. I kicked off the tree trunk, launched myself airborne, and brought the saber down on its back. A foot-long wound ripped open along its spine. It howled and spun, shattering the tree stump I'd just been leaning against with one paw. In the explosion of splinters, I spotted an opening. Its rear was exposed. Time to end this. I threw my belt knife with everything I had. It sank into the base of its tail with a wet thud. The tiger reared up in agony. I snatched up the mountain shaker, knocked one last steel arrow, and fired straight at its throat. The arrow buried 3 inches into its neck. The beast staggered forward for one final desperate lunge. I met it head-on, both hands on the saber, thrusting upward through the underside of its jaw. The blade punched through bone and into its brain. Scalding blood erupted over me like a burst pipe, soaking my face, my hair, everything. Mother of, I collapsed beside the tiger's corpse, heaving for air, absolutely drenched in blood. My hands were shaking. My heart was trying to punch through my ribcage. If Zhao Ming hadn't distracted it first, if I hadn't gotten that arrow into its front leg to slow it down, I'd be the one getting eaten right now. Luck. Pure, stupid luck on top of skill. My waist wound was seeping blood through my shirt. I checked it through clenched teeth, surface damage, nothing deep. My right arm felt like jelly, like every bone had been rattled loose. Husband. Gu Ning's scream cut through the forest. I forced myself up and saw her stumbling through the trees, skirt hiked up, nearly falling with every step. Behind her came a crowd of villagers carrying hoes and pitchforks, Ahu sprinting at the front. Dad, there's a tiger. Ahu skidded to a stop and pointed. Half the villagers immediately turned to run. Zhou Yi squinted at the massive carcass, the blood, the 3-foot gash along its back, and exhaled. Everyone calmed down. It's dead. Dead? How? Did 2 tigers fight each other? If Xiao Chun ran into that, Gu Ning went so pale she nearly fainted on the spot. Widow Wang grabbed her just in time. I'm here. I stumbled out from behind a tree, clutching my side. Gu Ning burst into tears and threw herself at me, completely ignoring the giant dead apex predator 3 feet away. The rest of the villagers wouldn't come within 10 meters. Are you okay? Let me see. Her fingers trembled as she touched my waist wound. Just a scratch. Promise. I looked at her bare feet and tear-streaked face. Why are you here? Ahu jumped in. Qinji, I saw Zhao Meng and his guys sneaking after you into the forest. I told my dad, and we grabbed everyone we could. He looked around. Where is that scumbag? I pointed. Everyone looked. A headless body lay in a pool of red, missing an arm and most of a leg. Brief silence. Not a single person expressed sympathy. Zhao Meng had been terrorizing the village for so long that his death was basically a public service announcement. Zhou Yi stared at the dead tiger, then at me. Xiao Chun, you killed this? Couldn't have done it without your mountain shaker, Uncle Zhou. Got lucky and hit its front leg first. Otherwise, I shrugged and let the sentence die. The crowd erupted. Tiger Slayer. We've got a Tiger Slayer in East Ditch Village. People were slapping my back, shaking my hand. One guy was practically crying with joy. Quiet, Zhou Yi barked. This blood will attract other predators. Get the tiger out of here now. Everyone scrambled. Poles, vines, ropes. They rigged a carry frame and hoisted the massive carcass. The thing must have weighed hundreds of pounds. Gu Ning held me up as we walked. Every step pulled at my waist, and I couldn't help hissing through my teeth. She cried harder. I'm fine, really. Some medicine, and I'll be good as new. Then I noticed Widow Wang in the crowd. Sister Wang? You came too? She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. I'd barely started cutting the cloth when Ahu came screaming about Zhao Meng. Your little wife bolted out the door without even getting her shoes on properly. Was I supposed to just let her run into a forest alone? She glanced at my waist wound, and a wicked grin spread across her face. That's a pretty low hit. Your kidneys aren't damaged, are you? Everything's still functional down there. I opened my mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. Nothing came out. This woman, even at a moment like this, absolutely no chill. None. The sun was baking everything alive, and the cicadas were screaming like they had personal grudges. When we hauled the tiger carcass into the village, Aunt Lou at the creek let out a shriek so loud her voice cracked. Her washing paddle flew into the water. The tiger was bigger than a calf. Orange and black fur caked in dried blood, tail thick as a bull dragging through the dirt, leaving a long smear behind us. The blood smell brought a swarm of green flies buzzing around like a disgusting orchestra. A yellow dog took one look at the carcass, tucked its tail between its legs, peed itself, and bolted home. The village chief. That beast. My Qinji killed it by himself. Ahu puffed his chest out before anyone could ask. Zhao Meng tried to ambush him, got his head chomped off by the tiger. Then Qinji finished the big cat solo. Smack. Zhou Yi cuffed him. Big mouth. Go find medicinal herbs. Within minutes, the news had spread through every house in East Ditch Village like wildfire with wings. Because everyone could do the math. One tiger meant 20 liang in bounty from the county office. Plus tiger bone, tiger whip, tiger skin. Altogether, easily over 100 liang of silver. A regular farmer couldn't save that much in a lifetime of penny pinching. Gu Ning was holding me up as I limped home, my waist wound burning like someone was pressing a hot poker to my side. The crowd of villagers swarming toward us was honestly more terrifying than the tiger. Old Lady Wang dragged her granddaughter to the front of the mob. Hero, look at my girl. 16 years old, wide hips, built for babies. The poor girl was beet red, trying to hide behind her grandmother. Lee the matchmaker shoved through with a girl in a pink skirt. My niece is 15. She can embroider and cook. Aunt Zhang wasn't about to lose. My daughter's hips are wider. Guaranteed 2 kids in 3 years. The girl behind her, braided pigtails, maybe 16, was stomping her feet in mortification. Mom. Stop talking. I wanted to melt into the ground. My toes were literally curling with embarrassment. Meanwhile, my waist was leaking blood, my face was pale, and cold sweat was pouring down my temples. Gu Ning gripped my arm tight, staring at the blood seeping through my shirt, biting her lip white. I could practically hear her thinking, if the wound gets infected. By the time we reached our house, the yard was packed. Women with daughters, nieces, and I swear. One lady carrying a granddaughter who couldn't have been older than 10. Everyone wanted to be related to the tiger-slaying hero. Ahem. Zhou Yi stepped forward with his serious face, and the crowd shut up instantly. Everyone go home. If Xiao Chun ever wants a concubine, he'll naturally consider village girls first. That satisfied them enough to leave, though they kept shouting over their shoulders as they went. Come eat at our house tomorrow. My daughter makes the best flatbread. I exhaled so hard I nearly passed out. Inside, Gu Ning laid out the herbs Ahu brought and peeled off my blood-soaked shirt with shaking hands. The wound wasn't deep, but the torn flesh made her eyes water immediately. She washed her hands with well water, then cleaned the wound with liquor. The alcohol hit the raw flesh, and every muscle in my body seized. My Adam's apple bobbed, but I didn't make a sound. Bear with it. Her voice was trembling as she packed the herbs on and wound cloth strips around my waist. When she tied the last knot, she suddenly pressed her face against my side and just cried. Warm tears soaked right through the fresh bandage. Silly girl, I stroked her cheek. It's just a scratch. She didn't answer, just kept crying silently while adjusting the bandage. Widow Wang, leaning against the doorframe with her usual shameless timing, was staring at my waistband. Maybe check a bit lower. Gu Ning, innocent soul that she is, actually reached for my pants. Woman, I slapped my hand down on my waistband to keep it in place. She's messing with you. Widow Wang howled with laughter. Shy are we? Sister here has seen everything. Want me to help apply medicine? Let me just scoot over. Ahem. Zhou Ye's cough cut through like a cannon. The tiger needs processing. Now, he pointed at the corner of the yard where our hen was literally foaming at the mouth from sheer terror at being near a dead tiger. Almost died of a heart attack. Poor bird. He was right. Tiger parts lose value fast if you don't process them quickly. I had Iron Egg Zhang and Big Bully hitch up an ox cart, Zhou Yi said, rubbing his calloused hands. They're strong. Good for the road. I nodded. Gu Ning grabbed my sleeve. Your wound. Surface damage. I'll live. I squeezed her sweaty palm, then turned to Widow Wang. Please look after my wife while I'm gone. Her eyes lit up. Well then, you'll have to properly thank me when you get back. She dragged that last word out so long it practically did a lap around the room. I got goosebumps. This woman wanted to eat me alive. The ox cart rattled down the road, crushing pebbles, scattering grasshoppers. Iron Egg Zhang flexed his massive arms while cracking the whip, then gave me a nudge and a wink. Brother Xiao, after you collect the bounty, you gonna hit up the pleasure house? I raised an eyebrow. You wanna go, Brother Zhang? Me? I'm broke, he laughed. But if you go, just come back and tell us about it. I swear I won't tell your wife. Big Bully said nothing. Just quietly touched the hatchet on his belt. But his Adam's apple bobbed suspiciously. I want to go too. Ahu jumped up like a firecracker. Smack. Zhou Ye's palm connected with the back of his skull for approximately the 15th time today. You don't even have hair yet. SIT down. Everyone cracked up. By late afternoon, Ping'an County's battered walls came into view. The second we rolled through the city gate, people stopped in their tracks. Holy! Look at that beast. A peddler was so distracted he almost walked into a stone lion. Make way! Make way! Iron Egg bellowed, cracking his whip, voice 8 notches louder than necessary. Tiger. Killed by East Ditch Village. Upstairs at the Drunken Immortal restaurant, a window banged open and 3 diners nearly broke their necks trying to stick their heads out. That's even bigger than the one West Ditch Village killed last month. A waiter gasped, sloshing wine everywhere. The old flatbread seller on the corner shook his head. West Ditch lost 6 young men killing theirs. I wonder how many East Ditch. 0. Ahu shouted so loud he spit on the tiger. Nobody died. He was about to start acting out the whole fight with hand gestures when I gave him one look. He shut his mouth instantly, like a quail with its beak pinched shut. I leaned toward Zhou Yi. Uncle Zhou, do other villages really lose that many people hunting tigers? He wiped sweat the size of soybeans off his forehead. A hunting party of 20? Coming back with half alive is considered blessed. He glanced at the sword wounds on the tiger's back. Someone like you? You couldn't find a second one in all of North Liang. I looked at the tiger carcass and felt something heavy settle in my gut. 10 men dead for 1 tiger kill. The survivors split maybe 10 liang. Was it worth it? I thought of Zhao Meng's chewed-up skull, and my stomach lurched. This world treats human life like weeds. Poor people gamble their lives for a meal without thinking twice. At the county magistrate's office, Zhou Yi fished a dozen copper coins from his sleeve and discreetly palmed them to the guard at the gate. The guard weighed them, cracked a smile. Smart man. Then turned and walked inside to make the report. I watched from the side, cold-eyed but unsurprised. Money opens doors in every dynasty. I'm not the idealistic type. In this world, being, above it all, doesn't fill your stomach. A few minutes later, footsteps and the soft clink of belt ornaments. A middle-aged man emerged from inside the compound. Around 40, clean-shaven, pale-faced. He walked with perfect posture, carried himself like a scholar, but had that unmistakable polish of someone who'd been in government a while. I leaned toward Zhou Yi. Who's that? That's Yang Qijing, the county magistrate's chief advisor, Zhou Yi whispered, then immediately dropped to his knees. This humble villager greets your honor. Iron egg, big bull. Ahoo. Everyone hit the dirt. Everyone except me. I stood there, back straight, studying this guy. Clean-shaven, perfect posture, hands behind his back. Something about him felt off. In a calculated way. A guard spotted me standing and went ballistic. Insolent peasant. Kneel before the advisor. He yanked his saber half out of the sheath, blade gleaming at my throat. I almost laughed. This guy's draw technique was amateur hour. Wrong wrist angle, terrible weight distribution. I could think of 10 ways to snap his arm before that blade got anywhere near me. The crowd outside the gates went dead silent. Kids started crying. Some merchant types in silk were craning their necks, eyes full of scheming calculations. Please forgive him, sir. Zhou Yi's forehead was dripping cold sweat. My nephew is wounded. He physically cannot kneel. It's fine. Yang Qijing waved the guard off, voice unhurried and smooth. He walked over to the tiger, ran his fingers along the fur, and paused at the sword wound on its back. That's quite a cut. Your honor, my nephew Xiao Chun killed this tiger alone, Zhou Yi said. The crowd exploded. Alone? How old is this kid? Has to be lying. That tiger weighs at least 300 jin. Sho. Even the guards looked scared, but Yang Qijing barely reacted. Just a small nod, like someone told him it might rain tomorrow. Fetch 20 liang from the treasury, he told a guard. That set off alarms in my head. Any normal person hearing, solo tiger kill, would be shocked speechless. This guy acted like I'd reported catching a fish. Either he'd seen incredible things before, or he was intentionally hiding his reaction. This man was not simple. I studied him more carefully. Immaculate fingernails, perfectly pressed sleeves. This wasn't some backwater bureaucrat. Everything about him screamed capital city training. A guard pried out the tiger's 2 fangs as proof of the kill. Then Yang Qijing leaned in close and said something interesting in a low voice. Good timing on your part. A bit later, and I'd have been away on business. His eyes flicked toward the inner chambers of the magistrate's office, and a cold smile crossed his lips. Getting your bounty paid out wouldn't have been so straightforward. A chill ran down my spine. Was he warning me? Telling me someone inside would have tried to pocket the reward money? Why would a government official tip off a random hunter? The guard returned with an ingot of silver. Yang Qijing handed it to me personally. Young man. Impressive skills. I have high hopes for you. I took the silver and weighed it in my palm. 20 liang, roughly equivalent to 2 years' income for an average hunter, or about 20,000 in modern money. As he walked away, I stared at his back. The bounty came fast and smooth. No haggling, no corruption. But his attitude was strange. Too calm. Too knowing. Like he was playing a game I couldn't see yet. Zhou Yi and the others stood up and crowded around me, staring at the silver like it was a holy artifact. 20 liang. Ahu's eyes were dinner plates. My dad couldn't save this much in 10 years of farming. Zhou Yi glared at him, but couldn't argue. Big Bully was gripping his own sleeve so hard his knuckles went white. Jealous, clearly, but too honest to say anything weird. Iron Egg Zhang, on the other hand, had already mentally transported himself to a pleasure house, eyes glazed over in a fantasy involving 20 liang and very few clothes. I tossed the silver to Ahu. Here, hold this since you're drooling on my hand anyway. Careful, he fumbled the catch, then frantically polished it with his sleeve. What if it gets dirty? Hey there, heroes. Hold on a moment. A pudgy man in a blue silk robe came waddling toward us. Jade pendant swinging from his belt, face wearing that trademark merchant smile. Friendly on the surface, calculator behind the eyes. His fingers were absent-mindedly rubbing an emerald thumb ring. I'm Shin-san, owner of the Drunken Immortal restaurant. Congratulations on your kill. I looked him over. What do you want, Boss Shun? Well, he rubbed his hands together. A tiger this size is too much for regular folk to handle. Why not sell it to my restaurant? I'll make it worth your while. Name your price. 80 liang. How's that? He stroked his chin like he was being incredibly generous. We're all honest people here. That's a fair offer. Iron Egg and Big Bull looked at each other with eyes the size of moons. 80 liang. They'd never seen that much money, let alone touched it. They both turned to me with faces screaming. Say yes, say yes, say yes. I almost rolled my eyes. Every part of this tiger was valuable. Bones, skin, blood, organs, whiskers. 80 liang was highway robbery wrapped in a silk robe. Before I could speak, Zhou Yi grabbed my wrist. Last month, West Ditch Village sold a smaller tiger for 80 liang. Are you trying to cheat newcomers? Shun-sen lowered his voice. True, but that tiger's killing blow was to the neck. The skin was intact, and they saved most of the blood. He walked over and pointed at the 3-foot gash running down the tiger's back. This skin is practically split in two. And the blood loss. My price is very fair. His face was so earnestly sincere that I wanted to punch it. Boss Shun, selling to the Drunken Immortal would be convenient, sure. But at that price? We're done here. I shot Iron Egg a look. He immediately cracked his whip. Moving out. Wait. Shun-sen jumped in front of the cart, hands raised. Let's talk. Fine, 100 liang. A nice round number. 120, I said, flat and final. Plus a meal at the Drunken Immortal for my group. That's, Shin-san's face twitched. I could practically hear him cursing inside. How is this teenage hunter bargaining harder than a seasoned merchant? He looked at the growing crowd of onlookers. Other buyers might swoop in any second. He gritted his teeth. Fine, 120 liang. Deal. Just as he was mentally calculating his profit margins, I grinned. Oh, one more condition. Shin-sen looked like he'd just bitten into a lemon. He'd finally agreed on a price, and now I had more demands. Let's hear it, he said, barely hiding his irritation. 50 of the 120 liang. I want it in copper coins. Copper coins? He stared at me like I'd asked for payment in live chickens. Fair reaction. 50 liang in copper equals 50,000 coins. Nearly 400 jin of metal. Heavy, bulky, impractical. Everyone was confused. Zhou Yi whispered, what do you need that many coppers for? Trust me, Uncle Zhou. I've got a plan. I looked at Shin-san. Can you do it? He shrugged off the confusion and slapped on his merchant smile. 50,000 coppers? Easy. Follow me. His workers loaded the tiger onto a cart, and we headed to the Drunken Immortal. Ahu and Iron Egg were practically vibrating with excitement. We're actually going to eat at the Drunken Immortal. Ahu was rubbing his hands together so fast I thought he'd start a fire. When we walked past earlier, the smell almost killed me. If I tell the village about this, Iron Egg said, slapping his thigh, they'll be jealous till they die. Even Zhou Yi, Mr. Stoic himself, was clenching his sleeve so tight his knuckles went white. The restaurant entrance was blinding. Gold-lettered sign gleaming in the sunset, stone lions flanking carved doors, silk-clad waiters with their noses so high in the air they were practically looking at the sky. Ahu stepped onto the polished floor inside and nearly wiped out. He grabbed the staircase railing for dear life, voice trembling. Dad, this floor is cleaner than our bed. Zhou Yi tried to act natural, but his ears were glowing red. Shin-sen set us up at a nice second-floor window table. Quiet, clean, decent view. Then he placed 70 liang of silver on the table. The copper coins will be ready after the meal, he whispered. Ahu's eyeballs nearly shot out of his skull. He reached toward the silver ingots with shaking fingers, touched one, then jerked his hand back like he'd been electrocuted. They actually gave it to us? How many brick houses could you build with this? Iron Egg bear-hugged Big Bull. Pinch me. Am I dreaming? Big Bull, honest as always, grabbed a chunk of arm flesh and twisted. OW. Iron Egg hopped around howling, but grinning ear to ear. IT hurts. It's real. I never thought I'd see this much money in my life. Then the food arrived, and all conversation stopped. Braised pork elbow glazed in thick sauce. Steamed base so fresh it was practically still swimming. Stir-fried greens bright as emeralds. A pot of lamb soup with scallion floating on top. and premium sorghum wine that made Zhou Ye's homemade stuff taste like puddle water. Ahu was frozen, drooling. Iron Egg had already shoved a chunk of pork elbow into his mouth and was having a religious experience. Sweet mother of, this is incredible. Big Bull said nothing, but his chopsticks had already migrated to the base without consulting his brain. I tried a bite. Yeah, actually quite good. Could use finer salt though. I made a mental note. Bring Gu Ning here someday. Then I caught movement behind the folding screen. A figure approaching. I set my wine down casually. A man in a dark green scholar's robe walked over carrying a wine jug. Early 30s, refined face, slim build. Looked like an intellectual, but his hands told a different story. Thick fingers, enlarged knuckles, and a heavy callus on the web between thumb and forefinger. That's a swordsman's hand. Years of gripping a blade. Pardon the intrusion. Is this seat taken? Warm smile, polite voice. I'm Jiang Quan. I'd like to get acquainted. Everyone looked at me. Apparently, I'm the leader now. Go ahead. He sat, poured me wine with practiced courtesy. Brother Xiaochun, I presume? I've heard much about you. He knew my name. Not surprising. The scene outside the magistrate's office had drawn half the town. I didn't touch the wine. Brother Jiang, skip the pleasantries. What do you want? He glanced around, then dropped his voice. I'll be direct. I want to do business with you. If you hunt more tigers in the future, I want to buy the tiger sinew and tiger blood. Just buy them from Boss Shun. He smiled ruefully. The price wouldn't work. Market rate for a complete tiger sinew is at least 10 liang. I can only offer 3. Ahu erupted. That's robbery. Iron Egg piled on. You think we're idiots? Even silent Big Bull furrowed his brow. I studied Jiang Quan. Brother Jiang, that's not exactly a good faith opening. A stranger I've never met, offering 30% of market value? That's not business, that's an insult. But Jiang Quan didn't flinch. He lowered his voice further. Brother Xiao, don't be hasty. I have my reasons. He checked again that nobody was listening. You know what this world is coming to. War could break out any day. When that happens, his eyes locked onto mine. I can guarantee the safety of you and East Ditch Village. Dead silence at the table. Zhou Ye's expression shifted. Ahu and Iron Egg exchanged stunned looks. Big Bull's fist tightened. I narrowed my eyes and studied this man carefully. Scholarly exterior, but underneath? Deep waters. Anyone who makes promises that big is either crazy or backed by serious power. After a long pause, I smiled. Deal? Xiaochun, Zhou Ye grabbed my arm, whispering urgently. We don't know this man. What if he's a con artist? I waved him off and turned back to Jiang Quan. But I have a condition. Name it. If you can really protect East Ditch Village, prove it first. Do me a favor. What kind of favor? Investigate someone for me. My voice went quiet and sharp. The county magistrate's advisor. Yang Qijing. Jiang Quan's eyebrow went up when I mentioned Yang Qijing. His finger traced the rim of his wine cup, creating little whirlpools. Got a problem with the county office, Brother Xiao? I didn't answer. Just picked up a piece of base with my chopsticks and stared at him. Can you do it or not? Yes. He grinned, flashing a gold tooth. Give me some time. If I kill another tiger, how do I find you? Don't worry about that. I'll find you. He filled his cup, threw it back in one gulp, slammed it on the table, and vanished down the staircase like a ghost in a scholar's robe. Zhou Yi watched him go, frowning hard. Xiaochun, are you really going to work with that guy? Something about him feels off. Whether he's a good person doesn't matter. I put some greens in my bowl. What matters is whether the deal benefits us. Business partnerships aren't about morality. They're about leverage. If Jiang Quan can actually dig up intel on the county advisor, that proves he's connected to serious power. And if he's got serious power, then partnering with him is just common sense. Zhou Yi opened his mouth, closed it, and sighed. Dad? Ahu mumbled through a mouthful of pork elbow. Qinji knows what he's doing. Stop worrying. Iron Egg was dunking a steamed bun into the lamb soup and nodding furiously. Yeah, the man kills tigers solo. You think he can't read people? Big Bull said nothing, just quietly wiped a breadcrumb off his face and scooted his stool away from Iron Egg. I turned to Zhou Yi. Uncle Zhou, there's something else I want to discuss. You want to form a hunting squad? His eyes flickered. I nodded. Not surprised he guessed it. Why doesn't East Ditch Village have one? We're right next to Big Ridge Forest. Regular tiger kills would change everyone's lives. Zhou Ye's face darkened. His thick fingers started tapping the table unconsciously. Too dangerous. Those beasts will kill people. Trading lives for money isn't worth it. His voice shook. He went quiet for a moment, eyes going somewhere far away. Years ago, East Ditch Village did have a hunting squad. He was the captain, but the screams of dying teammates, the tiger's roar, the wailing of widows back in the village, all of it still haunted him. Xiaochun, killing one tiger was impressive, but luck doesn't repeat itself. He glanced at the blood seeping through my waist bandage. What if next time it's not your waist? What if it's your head? I smiled. Uncle Zhou, if I'm building a hunting squad, I'm not sending people to die. I have methods. Even against a tiger, I can guarantee 0 casualties. He stared into my eyes for a long time. Whatever he found there, the calm, the certainty, the complete absence of youthful recklessness, it gave him pause. We'll discuss this back in the village, he finally said. Fair enough. As we stood up from the table, Shun-san appeared with impeccable timing. Or rather, he'd been eavesdropping the entire time from behind a pillar. The second he heard, hunting squad, I could practically see copper coins spinning in his eyeballs. Everything's satisfactory, gentlemen, he beamed. The copper's ready, all set. I've arranged loading at the back door, fewer people, safer for transport. He made an after-you gesture. I was actually impressed. The man was shrewd, but he was also thoughtful. Taking care of security for our cash without being asked? That's a businessman worth working with. Out back, a cart waited with 6 fat burlap sacks stacked neatly under a layer of dry hay. Zhou Yi peeled back one corner, 50,000 copper coins glinting gold in the sunset. Uncle Zhou, take everyone home. I've got business in town. He frowned at my bloody bandage. Your wound. I'm fine. I pulled out 20 liang of silver and held it out to him. Everyone helped haul the tiger. Split this 4 ways. Iron Egg and Big Bull's eyes nearly popped out. 20 liang. 5 each. More than years of farming. But Zhou Yi pushed the money back, face stern. What do you take us for? We helped because we're neighbors, not hired hands. I didn't argue. Just stuffed the silver into Ahu's arms instead. Uncle Zhou, friendship is friendship, but life is life. This isn't payment. It's so everyone can buy rice, flour, oil, and salt on the way home. Something real for their families. Zhou Yi opened his mouth to refuse again. I cut him off. It's decided. Be careful on the road. Ahu stood there hugging 20 liang like a confused baby holding a pumpkin. Zhou Yi looked at me for a long time, then let out a deep sigh. You? Finish your business and come home soon. His weathered eyes were shining. I watched the cart creak away into the dusk. Still got errands, young brother? Shun-san sidled up, eyes glittering. Boss Shun, how do I get to the Zhang estate? His smile froze solid. Zhang the blockhead? What do you want with him? The disgust in his voice could have peeled paint. Zhang the blockhead. That was the fearsome Master Zhang's real name. The richest man in Ping'an County was called Blockhead. I almost choked. My father owed him money. Ph. Shun-san spat on the ground. All pretense of merchant pleasantry gone. That black-hearted loan shark. Brother, listen to me. He's destroyed families with his interest schemes. Your money would be better spent on. A debt is a debt. I kept my voice firm. I pay what's owed. He stared at me for a few seconds, then broke into a grin. Fine. I've got nothing to do anyway. Let me take you there. Let's see if that turtle hasn't died on top of some poor woman yet. I watched his round figure waddle ahead of me. Interesting. There was clearly history between Boss Shun and Master Zhang. Bad history. North side of the city. The Zhang estate. Red lacquered gates with 2 gilded beast head knockers glowing cold in the evening light. I was about to knock politely when Shin-san grabbed my arm and stopped me. Then he planted his feet wide, put his hands on his hips, sucked in the biggest breath his massive lungs could hold, and bellowed, Zhang the blockhead, if you're not dead yet, get your ASS out here and greet your grandpa Shun. Shin-san's battle cry echoed down the entire street. My fingers actually twitched. The man was standing there, hands on hips, bellowing insults at the richest man in town like a fishwife at the morning market. 0 dignity. 0 fear. Where was the refined restaurant owner from 10 minutes ago? And Zhang's backer is supposedly the county magistrate. Isn't Shun-san worried about getting his restaurant shut down? The estate gates flew open and 8 beefy guards poured out with staffs, surrounding us instantly. Each one looked like they ate children for breakfast. Then the man himself waddled out. Purple silk robe straining at every seam. Jade belt buried so deep in belly fat it might never be found again. Every step sent waves rippling through his body like a flesh-colored ocean. Greasy face, snake-slit eyes, and a black mole on his chin sprouting 3 curly hairs. So this was Master Zhang, the legendary pervert who wanted my wife. I'd pictured someone at least slightly intimidating. This guy looked like a dumpling that gained sentience and developed a taste for women. Shen San, his voice squeezed out of his nose like he was speaking through a clogged pipe. Have you lost your mind? Coming to my door to curse at me? You think I won't kill you? His fat thumb was rubbing his jade ring, barely containing his rage. Kill me? Hey, Shen San actually stuck his neck out. Go ahead. Try it. You gonna wipe your butt with imperial law? Come on. Do it. The street crowd was going wild. The drunken immortal's owner publicly screaming at Master Zhang. This was the most entertainment Pingan County had seen in years. I was staring with my mouth open. This was not the same man who'd smoothly negotiated tiger prices an hour ago. This was a full-blown street hooligan in a silk robe. Zhang's face twitched. That snake-eyed glare flickered with murder, but he swallowed it. Just tell me what you want. Shen San jerked his thumb at me. Don't flatter yourself. I'm just the guide. My little brother here has business with you. Zhang froze. His tiny eyes scanned me up and down, brain churning. Why would the owner of the biggest restaurant in town be personally escorting some kid? What kind of backing does this brat have? Meanwhile, I was having my own bitter moment. The man who'd been scheming to steal my wife didn't even recognize my face. Master Zhang. I looked him dead in the eyes. My father borrowed 5 liang from you a month ago. I'm here to pay it back. 5 liang? He squinted, then his eyes lit up. You're the Gu girl's husband? I nodded. His expression shifted. Where's Zhao Meng? Wasn't that idiot supposed to handle this? If this kid is standing here perfectly healthy, then Zhao Meng is probably dead. Oh well, just a dog. Disposable. Well then, Zhang's mouth curled into a poisonous smile. Pay up. 30 liang. Before I could even open my mouth, Shen San erupted. Go to hell. Zhang the blockhead, don't pull that garbage with me. He dug 5 liang of silver out of his robe and hurled it at Zhang's chest. The ingot bounced off his blubber and clattered to the ground. 5 liang. Take it or leave it. Zhang's fist clenched. His face was turning purple. I stared at Shen San in shock. I'd known this guy for maybe 2 hours, and he was throwing his own money at my problems. What was his angle? Just to befriend me? There had to be more. Then, and I swear this happened, Shen San reached into some invisible pocket in his robe, produced a single copper coin, and flicked it at Zhang's face. It pinged off his cheek. There. 1 coin for interest. Don't say we don't follow the rules. Zhang's face went from purple to the color of raw liver. The coin didn't weigh anything, but it might as well have been a cannonball. The humiliation was written across every fold of fat on his face. His guard stepped forward, staffs raised. I tensed up. My waist was still injured, but taking out these guys wouldn't be a problem. Go ahead, Zhang. Shen San didn't retreat. He stepped forward, grinning like a lunatic. Touch 1 hair on my head, and I'll drop right here on the ground and refuse to get up. You won't settle it for less than 10,000 liang. I almost lost it. Was he threatening to fake an injury? In ancient China, this man had just invented insurance fraud centuries ahead of schedule. I was witnessing the birth of the professional scam victim. The truly insane part? Zhang actually hesitated. His fat face cycled through emotions like a slot machine before he finally waved his guards back. And that told me everything. Zhang, who has the county magistrate behind him, was afraid of Shen San, which means Shen San has his own backer, someone who outranks even the magistrate. The jolly restaurant owner was an iceberg with 90% hidden underwater. Fine. Debt paid. We're even. Shen San dusted off his hands, grabbed my arm, and strolled away like we'd just finished a pleasant evening walk. As he turned, I caught something flash across his face, disappointment. Like he'd been hoping Zhang would attack him. He wanted that confrontation. Behind us, a guard picked up the silver. Master, we're just letting them go. Zhang stormed inside and kicked a ceramic flower pot into 1,000 pieces. Useless. All of you useless. His jowls were shaking, his eyes cold as a viper's. Prepare my sedan chair. We're going to the magistrate. After we'd walked a safe distance, I pulled out 20 liang and offered it to Shen San. Boss Shun, thank you, but I can't let you pay my debts. I hadn't planned on paying the full 30 liang of fake interest, but I wasn't going to pay just 5 either. Still, Shen San's stunt had saved me real money. He waved me off. It's nothing. Just 5 liang. He caught the look in my eyes and sighed. Took the silver, counted out 15, and shoved them back into my hand. Fine. But you're not paying me back for that 1 copper coin. I laughed. Deal. He was clearly trying to build a relationship with me, and I wasn't going to slap away his goodwill. The man was hiding a lot beneath that cheerful merchant exterior, but now wasn't the time to dig. Sometimes knowing too much is worse than knowing too little. After Shinsen left, I headed to Tai Gang's blacksmith shop. The forge was burning hot, but my guy was nowhere to be found. His apprentice said he'd gone to the south side of town with old Sun the pharmacist. I rubbed my aching wound and sighed. I needed weapon maintenance and medical supplies, and both my contacts had decided to go on a field trip together. Great. After half an hour of asking around, I finally tracked Tai Gang to a rundown courtyard in the South District. I was about to step through the gate when a blood-curdling scream erupted from inside. OHHH, my mother. Why is my life so miserable? Inside the courtyard, Tai Gang, the man who swings a 20-gene hammer one-handed without breaking a sweat, was on his knees, sobbing like a toddler who dropped his ice cream. Old Sun, do something. Please. Standing over him was a hunched old man with white hair and a white beard, wearing a faded gray robe. This had to be Sun Helling, the pharmacist Tai Gang had been trying to introduce me to. She's my own niece, the old man said, voice cracking. If I could save her, don't you think I would? Tai Gang wasn't listening. Snot and tears everywhere, eyes bloodshot, mumbling to himself. How? She was fine just a few days ago. Sun Helling's wrinkled face was heavy with grief. The medicine stabilized her temporarily, but it didn't cure the root cause. My niece. Her fate is cruel. Knock, knock. I rapped on the gate. Bad time. Tai Gang's head whipped around. The second he saw me, his tear-soaked face lit up like I was the second coming of the Buddha. Brother XIO, he launched off the ground like a rocket, and before I could even say hello, he'd grabbed my wrist and was dragging me inside. You're here? Save her. Please. HSSSSS. His yank pulled at my waist wound. Fresh blood seeped through my shirt. Felt like someone stabbed me with a hot poker. Inside, the room was clean but sparse. Smelled like bitter medicine and soap. On the bed lay a woman in her late 20s, wearing a faded lotus-pink dress. Her face was yellow as old paper, lips cracked and peeling. Who is she? I asked, rubbing my wrist. Tai Gang collapsed beside the bed, his massive body making the whole frame shake and the medicine bowl rattle. He dabbed sweat from her forehead with his sleeve, those powerful arms trembling like a child's. Xiaoyan, if you die, how am I supposed to live? Old Sun hobbled in, rubbing his back where Tai Gang had accidentally shoved him. He sighed. This is my niece, Sun Xiaoyan. Widowed 3 years ago. The story came out in pieces. Xiaoyan's husband died suddenly 3 years back. With nothing else to do, she started helping at her uncle's pharmacy. The pharmacy was close to the blacksmith shop, and over time, she and Tai Gang became close. The big iron-pounding oaf fell head over heels for this quiet widow. Old Sun was happy to play matchmaker, but then Xiaoyan got sick. Some kind of severe illness that flared up periodically. Old Sun's prescriptions could manage it, but not cure it. A few days ago she'd been stable. The medicines seemed to be working. Then today, without warning, the disease came roaring back worse than ever. She'd fallen unconscious, barely breathing. Your medicine is useless. Tai Gang suddenly whirled on Old Sun, screaming so hard that spit landed on the old man's face. Old Sun quietly wiped it off with his sleeve. Didn't argue. What could he say? Then Tai Gang grabbed both my arms, tears flying. Brother Xiao, you cured my back in 1 session. You're a genius doctor. You can save Xiaoyan, right? I wanted to scream. I'm an assassin, not a doctor. Did I accidentally put miracle healer on my business card? Is this karma for killing too many people in my past life? Universe forcing me into the medical profession as punishment? Brother Tai Gang, I said carefully, I do acupuncture and bone setting. That's external stuff. Sister Sun clearly has an internal disease. I really can't. Internal, external. Who cares? His fist slammed the bed frame so hard the medicine bowl jumped. Old Sun's bitter soup doesn't work. Old Sun rolled his eyes at that one, but held his tongue. Then he turned to me with curious, sharp old eyes. Young man, you're the miraculous doctor Tai Gang told me about. That's very generous, I said, waving it off. I looked at Xiaoyan on the bed. Yellow skin, labored breathing, basically unconscious. Old son, could you describe her symptoms? I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I am a modern person, and modern people have doctor friends. And sometimes, when you're lying on a hospital bed recovering from a stab wound, you accidentally read over your friend's shoulder while he's reviewing patient files. These things happen. Old son nodded. It's what we call acute yellow syndrome. When it flares, she gets stabbing pain below the ribs, radiating to the shoulders and back. Even breathing hurts. Can't sleep at night. I initially prescribed bupleurum, white peony, bitter orange, cyperus, and Sichuan lovage. It reduced the pain and showed improvement, but over time, the formula lost effectiveness. She'd just taken a dose 2 days ago, should have held for a while. This time the relapse came faster, and she went straight into a coma. I'm out of ideas. I stroked my chin, staring at Xiaoyun's golden yellow complexion. Wait a minute. Stabbing pain under the ribs. Radiates to shoulders and back. Jaundice. Progressive worsening despite treatment. Shorter intervals between episodes. That sounds exactly like acute liver failure. In my past life, I got badly injured on a mission and went to my doctor friend for treatment. While I was lying there, I happened to see him reviewing a case file, a patient with acute liver failure. We actually discussed it afterward, brainstorming how to combine traditional Chinese medicine with Western approaches for the best outcome. I had no idea what acute yellow syndrome was in ancient medical terms. But based on old son's description and the fact that Xiaoyun looked like she'd been dipped in turmeric, 9 out of 10 chance this was the same thing. Brother Tai Gang. I pulled him to his feet. Stop crying. Sister son's illness. I think I can treat it. His wailing stopped like someone hit the mute button. He looked up at me, snot still dangling, eyes wide and stunned. Tai Gang's eyes lit up like a dying man seeing water. I knew you could help. He grabbed my arm with his iron vice hands, nearly ripping it from the socket. Old son stood to the side, stroking his beard, clearly skeptical. 40 years of medical practice, and now some teenager claims he can cure what a veteran doctor couldn't? Fair enough. I shook Tai Gang off and turned to old son. Got acupuncture needles? He opened his medicine chest and handed me a bundle. I spread them on the bed, picked up a needle, and held it over the candle flame to sterilize. Brother Tai Gang, flip her over, no hesitation. He wiped his hands on his shirt and gently turned Xiaoyun face down with the careful tenderness of a man handling glass. I focused, ran my palm along her back, located the Jiang point, and with a flick of my wrist, angled the needle in toward the spine. Deep first, then shallow. Quick lift, slow press. The room went dead silent. Even the candle flame seemed to freeze. Then it popped a spark, making Tai Gang jump and grab the bed frame. Second needle, Danshu point. I rotated the handle rapidly, sleeves swaying with the movement. Old son leaned forward involuntarily, eyes growing wider by the second. He'd never seen this technique. His bony fingers were unconsciously mimicking my movements in the air. Then came the main event. 10 fingers, 10 needles, rapid sequence. Black blood welled up from the puncture points like ink, spattering dark spots across the bedsheet. By the time the candle had dripped a full puddle of wax, I placed the final needle into the kneading point, wiggling it in a specific tiger head pattern. Xiaoyun's pinky twitched. Then her whole hand trembled. The yellow color in her skin, that old paper's sickly tone, started fading, visibly, right before our eyes. Tai Gang was shaking so hard, he could barely speak. He pressed himself against the bedside. Xiaoyun? She struggled, her eyes open, focused on him for just a moment, gave the faintest smile, and drifted into peaceful sleep. Old son's jaw was practically on the floor. Each individual needle had seemed unrelated to the disease, but combined, the effect was undeniable. Yes, Tai Gang stomped the floor twice like a happy bull, then spun around and tried to drop to his knees in front of me. Brother Xiao? This debt I can never repay. I grabbed his elbow to stop him, and HSSSS. The movement yanked at my waist wound. Stars danced across my vision. That's when he finally noticed the blood seeping through my shirt. You're hurt. His nostrils flared. He rolled up his sleeves. Who did this? I'll kill them. A tiger's tail. His shoulders deflated instantly. The bravado leaked out of him like air from a balloon. But then he glanced at Xiaoyun, swallowed hard, and puffed back up. Fine. If it means Xiaoyun gets better, I'll fight the tiger with my bare hands. My life is yours. I was genuinely moved. This guy barely knew me, But for the woman he loved, he'd throw himself at a tiger. That's the kind of man worth keeping close. Relax. The tiger's already dead. I killed it today. Just came from collecting the bounty. Both Tai Gang and Old Sun stared at me like I'd said I'd flown to the moon. I pulled out 5 liang of silver, still warm from my body. Brother Tai Gang, here's what I owe you for the saber. Without that blade, I couldn't have killed the tiger. His face went dark. Not grateful, angry. You just saved Xiaoyan's life, and you're trying to pay me? Are you trying to insult me? A deal is a deal. I said I'd pay on credit. Debts get paid. He refused. Absolutely, categorically, stubbornly refused. Arms crossed, face like a wall. I sighed. Fine, but I do need another favor. East Ditch Village is forming a hunting squad. We need weapons, swords, bows, arrowheads. Can you forge them? His chest puffed right back up. Thump thump. Easy. When do you need them? No rush. Take care of sister's son first. He nodded, already wringing out a hot towel to wipe Xiaoyan's forehead with gentle, trembling hands. I hid a smile. Love really does change a man. The guy who hammers iron all day was dabbing sweat off a sleeping woman's brow like he was handling a baby bird. I left the 5 liang on the table when nobody was looking and slipped out. On the walk back, Old Sun was replaying my needle technique in his head, feet slowing to a shuffle. Young man, who taught you? What school of medicine? Just a wandering barefoot doctor. No famous name. What was I supposed to say? A combination of techniques verified by centuries of future medical research that I happened to read about while recovering from a stab wound in a hospital bed. Old Sun took my vague answer as humble modesty and looked even more impressed. A master so skilled yet unwilling to seek fame? How noble. At his pharmacy, he dispatched Xiaoyan's medicine with an assistant, then produced a small porcelain bottle. He blew invisible dust off it with reverence. This is the best wound healing powder in my shop. Apply it, and you'll be mostly recovered by tomorrow. Golden wound powder. Premium stuff. In wartime, with prices skyrocketing, most people could never afford this. He had me take off my shirt. When he saw the wound, he sucked air through his teeth. This is quite severe. He applied the medicine, golden powder sparkling as it settled into the raw flesh. Sharp pain at first, then relief. The bleeding stopped. The throbbing faded. By the time he finished wrapping fresh bandages, I could actually move without wanting to scream. Come back in a few days for a change of dressing. You should be fine after that. I stood up, stretched carefully, and thanked him. Then I smiled. Old Sun, I have a business proposition for you. Business? Old Sun's white eyebrows went up. He set down the wound powder and studied me with those cloudy but sharp old eyes. What I didn't realize was that he'd been dying to talk to me about my acupuncture technique and was just trying to figure out how to bring it up. And here I was, walking right through the door with a deal. I pulled out a cloth bundle and unwrapped it on the table. A pair of deer antlers in velvet, brown and soft, still showing fresh bloodlines at the base. The fine fuzz caught the candlelight and glowed gold. Old Sun's bony fingers caressed the surface, feeling the softness. He sniffed them, and his eyes went wide. Excellent quality. Velvet intact, bloodlines clear, harvested within 3 days. He held them up to the light. These are worth at least 20 liang, right in line with my estimate. I tapped the table. I don't want silver. I want to trade them for golden wound powder. He blinked. Actually, with the empire collapsing and currency losing value, bartering was the smarter move. He stroked his beard and smiled. Of course, at 1 liang per bottle, that's 20 bottles. 1 liang per bottle? I kept my face still, but inside I was reeling. A farmer in East Ditch Village works a whole month and might not earn 1 liang. This tiny bottle of powder costs someone's entire monthly income. And this was probably Old Sun giving me a discount. Deal. He started to get up, but I stopped him. That was the small business. I've got a bigger proposal. He sat back down so fast his candle flame danced. I want to supply you with rare medicinal ingredients on a long-term basis. In exchange for wound powder and whatever else we need. What kind of ingredients? He smiled confidently. 30 years running this pharmacy. What hadn't he seen? Tiger bone. His hand spasmed. Knocked over his teacup. Brown liquid spread across the table, and he didn't even notice. His lips were trembling. You're serious? His voice went so high it cracked. Tigers are nearly impossible to hunt. The Drunken Immortal restaurant had basically monopolized the tiger bone supply in the entire county. For a small pharmacist like Old Sun, Tiger bone was a dream ingredient, the kind of thing that unlocked dozens of premium prescriptions but was permanently out of reach. East Ditch Village is forming a hunting squad. I can't promise a tiger every time, but even one leg, 50 or 60 gene. That's over 10 gene of bone. His fingers were shaking with excitement. Deal. I'll take it. All for wound powder. We'll see. Might need other medicines down the road. He practically tripped over his own robe rushing to the back room. Came out carrying a blue cloth bundle. Set it on the table with trembling care. 20 white porcelain bottles, neatly arranged, each labeled with red paper and black ink. Golden wound. Every cap sealed with beeswax against moisture. Handle with care. Don't let them bump around. He checked each bottle's seal one last time with spotted fingers before wrapping them up. I took the bundle. Heavy. The bottles clinked together like music. With this much wound powder, the hunting squad's casualty rate would drop dramatically. I was about to leave when I noticed old son wringing his hands, face flushed red like a nervous schoolboy. Something else, old son? He took a deep breath. His beard was literally quivering. Young man, I have an impertinent request. He looked like he was about to ask for state secrets. Your needle technique earlier was extraordinary. If it wouldn't violate your master's teachings, could you perhaps share a few pointers? Then, afraid I'd misunderstand, he added quickly, of course, any medicines you need in the future, I'll provide them without question. I stared at him. A doctor with 40 years of experience, still so hungry to learn that he was literally shaking with the embarrassment of asking a teenager for guidance. That's the kind of person worth respecting. I burst out laughing. That's what you're nervous about? Old son, I'd be honored. No rules to break. Next time I'm free, we'll sit down and swap knowledge. He nearly jumped out of his sandals. 60-something years old and bouncing like a kid who just got candy. Thank you. Thank you. Anything you need, send word, and I'll deliver it personally. He walked me all the way to the street corner and stood there watching me disappear into the night. The streets were dark and nearly empty. I looked at the city gate ahead, almost closing time, and broke into a jog. Barely made it through before they sealed the doors for the night. The country road back was rough and uneven. Clouds hid the moon, leaving just faint starlight. The medicine bottles clinked softly with each step, mixing with crickets and frogs into a strange little nighttime symphony. Gotta hurry. Wifey's probably worried sick. I picked up the pace. Then, torchlight. Dozens of flickering flames ahead, cutting through the darkness. Metal clashing. Men screaming. Are those bandits? Working the night shift? That's some serious dedication to the profession. I dropped low and melted into the roadside grass, instincts kicking in. Through the dancing firelight, I could make out the scene. One massive man with a curved sword was tearing through attackers like a wolf through sheep. On the other side, more than a dozen guards had already lost half their number. The 7 or 8 survivors were desperately protecting someone behind them, a man in expensive robes. I looked closer at the man being protected and my breath caught. That's him. I crouched behind the bushes, fingers absent-mindedly picking at the grass. The firelight made things clear enough. 7 or 8 government guards forming a protective circle around a man in a dark green scholar's robe. Yang Qijing, the county advisor. The guy who'd handed me my tiger bounty just hours ago. Wait, he said he was leaving on official business this afternoon. Why is he just now getting out of the city at this hour? On the other side of the fight stood a massive thug with a scar running from his left eye all the way down to the corner of his mouth. Yellow crooked teeth, curved sword dripping with blood. Who the hell attacks a government official? That takes some serious guts. The scarred man let out a war cry, his blade carving a silver arc through the air. Another guard's throat opened up like a red flower. He turned those cold snake eyes on the survivors and grinned, a sound like a crow laughing in the dark. Ha ha ha. Ready to die, Advisor Yang. Yang Qijing's robe was trembling at the hem, but his voice came out steady and cold. I'll go away. Did Zhang the blockhead think about the consequences of sending you to kill me? So this was Zhang's man. The real muscle, not a village thug like Zhao Meng, but a trained killer. And Zhang had actually ordered a hit on a government official? The fat man moved fast. We'd humiliated him just hours ago, and he was already retaliating. Except, this was aimed at Yang Qijing, not me. Ague flicked blood off his blade. Consequences? Who's going to know? It's past curfew. The gates are shut. No one's getting out of the city to witness anything. Yang Qijing went quiet. He had no answer for that. The man was right. At this hour, the road was deserted. But the man forgot about me. I carefully set down my medicine bundle, hid the 20 bottles of wound powder deep in the bushes, and scooped up a handful of stones. Die! Ague lunged. His blade slashed toward Yang Qijing's throat. Whoosh. 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 3 stones cut through the darkness. Ague's ears twitched. He aborted mid-strike, twisting his body in a hawk roll to dodge. The stones grazed his ear and punched 3 craters in the dirt behind him. Fast reflexes. This guy was no joke. Who's there? He whipped around, scar writhing on his face like a centipede, yellow teeth reeking of rotten meat and stale wine. I stepped out of the shadows, ignored him completely, walked right up to Yang Qijing and gave a small bow. Advisor Yang, you all right? He looked surprised, then recognized me. His eyes did a quick assessment. This was the kid who killed a tiger solo. Against 1 thug with a sword? The math checked out. Young man, what are you doing out here? Had some errands. Ran late. Lucky timing. Ague roared behind me. Got time for small talk? Advisor Yang, you really think this boy is going to save you? My stone throwing had startled him, sure. But in his mind, a teenager was no real threat. Yang Qijing's face went serious. Young man, are you confident you can take him? His eyes dropped to my waist. Your wound. I'm fine. I turned to the nearest guard. Brother, mind lending me your saber? The guard glanced at Yang Qijing, got a tiny nod, and flipped his blade around handle first. Be careful, young hero. His curved sword style is tricky. I took the regulation military saber. Heavier than my ring pommel, less balanced, but for one guy, more than enough. I spun it once to get the feel. It's getting late. I launched forward, blade flashing like a bolt of lightning. If I don't get home soon, my wife's going to worry. Ague snarled and charged. His curved sword stabbed forward like a viper's tongue, aimed at my heart. I didn't dodge. Waited until the tip was 3 inches from my chest, then twisted sideways and slashed upward in the same motion. Schlick. His arm split open. Blood soaked through his sleeve instantly. He stared at me like I'd just done a magic trick. You. Before he could finish, I was on him again. My footwork looked random, chaotic even, but every step was calculated to land in his dead zones, those exact spots where he couldn't generate power. The saber in my hand became a silver storm, sometimes darting like a butterfly between flowers, sometimes crashing down like a pouncing tiger. What kind of sword style is this? Ague was panicking now. 10 years roaming the martial world, and he'd never seen anything like it. Every time he swung, I'd already predicted where his blade would go. Every time he exhausted his momentum, my counter was already arriving. I didn't answer. Rule number 1 of being an assassin. Never relax until the target stops breathing. I pushed harder. Faster. My steps flowed like water, blade flickering, every strike aimed to kill. In the background, Yang Qijing was staring with his mouth open. No wonder he killed a tiger alone. This boy's combat ability is extraordinary. A few more exchanges was all it took. I saw the opening. 1 explosive step forward, black lightning, and my blade crossed his throat. Blood erupted. In the torchlight, it looked like flowers blooming midair. Ague's curved sword clanged to the ground. He clutched his throat with both hands, knees buckling, blood pouring between his fingers. Who are you? I flicked the blood off the blade. I'm your daddy. Yang Qijing walked over with his guards, eyes full of genuine admiration. Incredible skill. Young man, I owe you my life. I will never forget this. Don't mention it. I handed the saber back to the guard, but Yang Qijing took it instead. Something cold flashed in his eyes. He walked over to Ague's lifeless body, raised the blade, and chop. Head. Clean off. I blinked. This gentle, scholarly advisor had just decapitated a corpse without flinching. Not a single tremor in his hands. Not a flicker of hesitation. This guy was not what he appeared to be. Yang Qijing skewered the head on the sword tip, then pulled an official token from his robe and handed it to a guard. Take my pass into the city. Deliver this head to Zhang the Blockhead. Personally, the guard wrapped the head in torn cloth and sprinted toward the city. I looked at Yang Qijing, my mind churning with questions. Advisor Yang, do you have a grudge against Zhang? He gave me a thin smile, gazing toward the dark silhouette of the distant city walls. Zhang the Blockhead is nothing. The person who truly wants me dead is someone else entirely. If I'm not mistaken, I said, letting a knowing smile creep across my face. The person who wants you dead is the county magistrate, Yang. Qijing's pupils contracted sharply. He looked me up and down, a teenager in rough peasant clothes, and for the first time, I saw genuine wariness in his eyes. Young man, are you really just a hunter? Instead of answering, I poked at the question from a different angle. According to imperial law, a county magistrate can fire his advisor with a single document. Why bother hiring assassins? That got him. He waved off his remaining guards, walked to a roadside boulder, and sat down. His official robe was dragging in the dirt, and he didn't even notice. He doesn't dare fire me openly. He ground his teeth, fingers tapping the stone. Why not? He paused, then pointed one finger upward. Because behind me stands the imperial court. Everything clicked into place. That's why the county magistrate couldn't just get rid of him. That's who Zhou Yi was talking about, the person the magistrate fears. It was Yang Qijing all along. He narrowed his eyes. I was demoted here for making mistakes, true, but a mere 7th-rank county official thinks he can kill me. A cold laugh. He's not important enough. Technically, an advisor has no official rank at all. But Yang Qijing was the exception. His backer in the capital was someone with enormous reach. Even without a title, he was untouchable through normal channels. If they know you're connected, why risk it? Because if I stay alive, their dirty business can't continue. Disgust dripped from every word. Then, like a dam breaking, he told me everything. After arriving in Pingan County, he'd uncovered the corruption between the magistrate and Zhang the blockhead. Illegal businesses, extortion rackets, the whole web. His investigations had choked their income streams one by one. Naturally, they wanted him gone. Suddenly a lot of things made sense. That's why Zhang only dared use loan shark tactics against Guning instead of just kidnapping her outright. If Yang Qijing caught wind of a forced abduction, one report to the capital and the magistrate's career was finished. Cold sweat ran down my back. If I hadn't stumbled into this ambush tonight, if Yang Qijing had died, Zhang would have marched into East Ditch Village tomorrow with zero restraints. Nobody left to stop him from taking Guning by force. Advisor Yang, if you have evidence of their crimes, why haven't you taken them down? He straightened up, radiating authority. Evidence. I could have their heads on stakes with a single word. But, he trailed off, clapped my shoulder hard, and said, Young man, the waters in Pingan County run very deep. I got the message. There were layers to this I couldn't see yet. I didn't push further. Where are you headed? Jiangzhou City. Business to attend to. I bowed. Safe travels. He smiled warmly. When I return, I'm buying you drinks. I owe you my life, and I intend to repay it. The guard he'd sent with Ague's head jogged back. Delivered, sir. But Zhang wasn't home. Yang Qijing thought for a moment, shrugged it off, said his goodbyes, and disappeared down the road toward Jiangzhou City with his surviving guards. I watched them vanish into the night, arms behind my back, brow furrowed. Pingan County looked peaceful on the surface, but underneath? A snake pit. The magistrate couldn't kill Yang Qijing. Yang Qijing couldn't take down the magistrate. A stalemate, which meant the magistrate had his own backer somewhere. Someone powerful enough to make even Yang Qijing cautious. Hope Jiang Quan digs up something useful, I muttered, then grabbed my 20 bottles of medicine and headed home. Meanwhile, at that exact moment, in the back chambers of the county magistrate's office, 2 shadows flickered on a gilded screen. Zhang the blockhead was wedged into an armchair, black mole hairs twitching, fat fingers drumming a rosewood desk. The jade ring clicked against wood in an irritating rhythm. Your Honor, he raised his voice. That Shinsan came to my house and cursed at me today. The drunken immortal must be destroyed. County Magistrate Wu Lian sat in the main seat, delicately skimming tea foam with a porcelain lid. Calm, unhurried, cold. Don't forget, the drunken immortal's headquarters is in Jiangzhou City. The tea lid clinked shut. But, the matter, Wu Lian's eyes flashed with venom, cutting Zhang off. How is it progressing? Zhang puffed his chest. No problems. We should be hearing good news any minute. Right on cue. One of Zhang's household servants came stumbling in, face white as chalk, carrying a dripping cloth bag. Zhang grinned triumphantly. See? Right on schedule. He snatched the bag, cursing at the trembling servant. Pathetic. Scared of one little head. Where's Ague? Why didn't he come himself? The servant collapsed to his knees, staring at the bag, lips quivering, unable to speak. Zhang appended the bag. A head rolled across the floor and stopped face up. It was Ague's. Zhang's grin froze on his face like a cracked mask. His eyes bulged. What? How? What happened? The servant was shaking too hard to form words. As someone delivered it to the gate. I don't know who. Magistrate Wu Lian's face went dark as a thundercloud. This is what you call no problems. He stood up so fast his robe whipped the air. The veil is torn now. What do you propose we do? Zhang was drowning in cold sweat, stammering. Why, Your Honor? There must have been a mistake. I'll investigate immediately. He practically ran out. Wu Lian paced the chamber alone. His shoes scraped the floor in a steady, ominous rhythm. His snake-like eyes fixed on the flickering candle flame. Something hard and final crystallized behind them. He called for paper and brush, wrote a letter in rapid, sharp strokes, handed it to his most trusted aide. Deliver this to Bloodknife Ridge, deep night. The village was dead quiet. Even that yappy yellow dog at the entrance was snoring in a haystack. I walked home by moonlight and saw the dim glow of a candle through the window. My chest went warm. She was still up, waiting for me. The fence gate creaked, and instantly I heard scrambling inside. Gu Ning came running out without even putting on shoes. Under the moonlight, her face was pale as paper, eyes red-rimmed, fingers death gripping her sleeve. The moment she saw me, her whole body deflated with relief. Her lips twitched upward, but she bit it back, trying not to show too much. Husband, her voice was shaking. A whole day of bottled-up worry finally finding an exit. Are you hungry? My breath caught. Everyone else had gotten back in the afternoon. I was the only one missing. She must have been losing her mind for hours. I reached up and rubbed the top of her head. Ice cold. This silly girl had been standing at the door waiting God knows how long. Were you worried? She shook her head. Liar. And reached for the bundle on my back. I dodged. It's heavy. I got it. Her hand froze midair, then grabbed my sleeve instead. I'll heat up dinner. And she was gone, trotting into the kitchen, her silhouette so thin she looked like a leaf the wind could blow away. I stood in the yard, smiling without realizing it. In my old life, I had the fanciest apartment, the most expensive cars. And every time I walked through that door, the air inside was frozen. Dead. No one waiting. No one caring. Now I live in a mud hut with a straw roof, and someone's warming up dinner for me. This is what home means. From the kitchen, the cheerful clinking of bowls and plates. I quietly stashed the wound powder, and Gu Ning came out with the food. I froze. Sweet and sour pork ribs. A mountain of white rice. A plate of bright green spinach. Where the hell did this come from? The ribs and rice. I frowned. The white rice Zhao Meng's goons had stolen. I definitely hadn't bought ribs. Gu Ning's fingers twisted together, head dropping so low her chin nearly touched her chest. The village chief brought them. Her voice was barely a whisper. I tried to refuse, but Uncle Zhou, she trailed off, eyes reddening, terrified I'd be angry. I sighed, half annoyed, half melted. I put a rib in her bowl. Silly girl, when have I ever been mad at you? She still wasn't eating, just sitting there holding her chopsticks like they might bite her. I squinted and stretched out the words. Looks like my wife wants her husband to feed her. EP. Her ears went nuclear red. She buried her face in rice and started shoveling, but couldn't hide the tiny smile tugging at her lips. In the candlelight, her long lashes cast shadows on her cheeks, and there was a little smudge of sauce on her lip she didn't even notice. The candle was guttering when I reached for the dishes. Suddenly, tears, pouring down her face like a broken faucet. Husband, do you not want me anymore? Oh, then it hit me. In this era, women aren't even supposed to eat at the same table as men. A husband doing dishes? That's basically a divorce announcement. She thought I was rejecting her. I wiped her tears. Don't be ridiculous. I couldn't treasure you more if I tried. In the kitchen, I spotted the corner piled with rice bags and ribs. At least 100 jin of supplies. I smiled bitterly. Zhou Yi and the guys had spent most of those 20 liang right here, stocking MY kitchen. Those idiots. What happened with the cotton cloth? Did Sister Wang finish the outfit? Gu Ning was on tiptoe, putting bowls away. She paused, shook her head sheepishly. I don't know. I'll ask tomorrow. I laughed. She'd been too busy panicking about me to think about new clothes for a single second. I took the bowl from her hands and squeezed her soft palm. Tomorrow, bring some ribs and rice to Sister Wang. She's helped us a lot. Sure, people gossip about widows. But Wang had genuinely looked out for Gu Ning. When Ahu raised the alarm about Zhao Ming, she was the only woman who followed my wife into the forest. That kind of loyalty deserves proper thanks. Gu Ning's dimples appeared. Yes, husband. Moonlight through the window. Our shadows merged on the mud wall. I pulled her onto the bed and held her, feeling the warmth and softness of her against me. Wifey, I paid off all of Dad's debt today. Her head snapped up, eyes round as coins, like a startled fawn. Then the tears came, not sad ones. The kind where something massive and crushing finally lifts off your chest, and you can breathe again. She grabbed fistfuls of my shirt and buried her face in my chest, breathing deep, like she was memorizing my scent. Nobody, I said, voice rough, will ever take you from me again. She looked up. In the moonlight, her eyes were impossibly bright. I tilted her chin up and kissed her. Soft, gentle. She kissed back clumsily, lashes fluttering against my skin. When my hand started traveling south from her neck, she snapped out of it and grabbed my wrist. Face crimson, voice mosquito volume. Your wound. Before I could argue, she'd hopped off the bed and was at the door. She held the frame, looked back over her shoulder, eyes shimmering, shy, achingly beautiful, and whispered, When you're healed. Then she bolted like a spooked deer. I stared at the swaying door curtain, looked down at my situation, sighed. Pathetic. Moonlight flooded the yard. I breathed in the earthy night air and grinned at the sky. This new life? Not bad at all. Morning. Dew still on the ground. I was up doing light breathing exercises. Couldn't do much with the waist wound. Just basic chi cultivation. After breakfast, Ahu's foghorn voice blasted through the yard. Chinji, you home? Zhou Yi stood outside with iron egg and big bowl, an ox cart behind them piled with fat burlap sacks. Zhou Yi wiped his forehead. Kid, you've got some nerve. Leaving 50 liang in copper coins with US overnight. He slapped the sack. Clang, clang, clang. Iron egg scratched his head. 50 liang. Weren't you afraid we'd take the money and run? I laughed. Would you? He blinked. Then broke into the biggest grin. Never. He rubbed his rough palms together. More serious than I'd ever heard him. You trust us, we don't let you down. He and Big Bull started untying the ropes. One bag opened and copper coins glinted in the morning sun. I held up my hand. Wait. I turned to Zhou Yi. Uncle, how many households in the village? 103. Instant answer. Why? I tapped the sack and smiled. Divide it up. Give the money to everyone. What? Iron Egg's rope hit the ground. Big Bull stumbled into the ox cart. Ahu literally jumped. Chinji, have you lost your mind? Xiao Chen, this is no time for jokes. Zhou Ye's eyes were bulging. Ahu was practically vibrating. Chinji, you almost died for this money. Iron Egg chimed in. And for once in his life, he was being serious. Brother Xiao, maybe think about this a little more? Even Big Bull, the man of approximately 4 words per day, spoke up. Bad idea. I looked at all 4 of them and smiled. Slapped the sack of coins. Clang, clang, clang. The reason I converted 50 liang to copper coins was always to distribute them. Zhou Yi opened his mouth to argue, but I turned his own words on him. Uncle Zhou, yesterday you told me that neighbors help each other out of goodwill, not money. Well, I'm sharing my earnings with the village for the same reason. That was the noble version. The real reasons? First, I just earned over 100 liang. In a village of dirt-poor farmers, that kind of wealth can't stay secret. If someone gets jealous while I'm out hunting and decides to mess with Gu Ning, not worth the risk. Spending a little money to buy peace of mind? Bargain. Second, bandits and raiders are everywhere these days. If word gets out that one house in East Ditch Village is sitting on a fortune and bandits show up, nobody's going to risk their neck defending my money. But if everyone's gotten a share, now it's their money too. Now we're a team. Third, the hunting squad. I'm going to need villagers helping with logistics, gear, processing. Nobody works for free. Pay them now, and they'll remember when I come asking for help later. Gu Ning came out with a wooden basin to feed the chicken. Iron Egg leaped at her like she was a lifeline. Sister-in-law, please talk some sense into your husband. He wants to give away the money. She set the basin down, looked at me with those clear eyes, and smiled softly. Whatever my husband decides, I support him. My heart melted. I tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. It's settled then. Notify everyone. 500 copper coins per household. Zhou Yi sighed in defeat and went to round up the villagers. Within minutes, the entire village was crowded outside our fence. 100 pairs of eyes locked onto those fat burlap sacks like they were treasure chests from a fairy tale. Everyone, I called out. Yesterday's tiger has been sold. This is my way of sharing the good fortune. 500 coins per household. I hope you won't think it's too little, the crowd erupted. Widow Wong clutched her chest so dramatically she nearly popped out of her top. 500 coins, and he says it's not much. Half the young men in the crowd were suddenly looking in her direction, though probably not because of what she said. Zhou Yi stepped forward with his authority voice. This boy has a good heart. How many years since East Ditch Village produced someone like him? Everyone remember this kindness. Thank you, Brother Xiao. You're a saint. Anything you need, just holler. As people lined up, Widow Wong slithered to the front in a pale blue top cut just a bit too low. She collected her coins, then leaned in close. So, you're distributing money because you're worried about bandits, right? My head snapped toward her. This woman, the one who spends all day making dirty jokes and flashing cleavage, had seen straight through my strategy in 3 seconds flat. She caught my reaction and grinned like a cat. Don't worry, we're family. Your secret's safe with me. Since when are we family? Well, you never know. She puffed out her chest until it nearly bumped my arm. Then she said something that stopped me cold. Besides, even if bandits did come, I could keep you safe. The absolute certainty in her voice. For a split second, the playful widow vanished. Someone else was standing there. Someone with depth and power and secrets I couldn't begin to guess. I changed the subject fast. Sister Wong, how's the outfit coming? When does my wife get her new clothes? Heartless man. She pouted. You think needlework is easy? It's harder than any other manual skill. She pointed at her own flawless face. Look at me. I'm practically wasting away making your wife's clothes. And do you appreciate it? And oh, I shook my head. Arguing with this woman was a losing game every single time. Relax. Tomorrow your little wife will have her new outfit. She leaned in, breath warm on my ear. I guarantee it'll blow your mind. You might lose all self-control and consummate things right then and there. Guning, who was handing out coins 3 feet away, turned so red I thought she might spontaneously combust. Even her ERS were glowing. The distribution took nearly an hour. Every family thanked me profusely. Several aunties grabbed my hands and refused to let go, trying to sell me their daughters. My Tsuehua is 16. Cooks and cleans. My girl's got wide hips. Great for babies. Mine's not the prettiest, but she's strong. Can carry heavy loads. My brain was about to short-circuit when Widow Wong rode to the rescue. Shoo, can't you see the lovebirds are happy together? Stop being pests. Worked like a charm. The matchmaking aunties retreated, giggling. After the last family collected their share, I exhaled for what felt like the first time in an hour. I told Guning to bring some ribs and rice to Widow Wong as thanks, then called Zhou Yi and the guys back. Uncle Zhou, it's time to talk about the hunting squad. Iron Egg's eyes lit up like firecrackers. Yes, a few more tigers and I can build a house and get a wife. His dark face was practically glowing. Big Bull said nothing, but his big, work-hardened fists clenched with unmistakable excitement. Zhou Yi frowned. Hunting tigers isn't a game. Last time you got lucky. If we go in as a team and someone makes one wrong move, people die. He started counting problems on his fingers. First, weapons. Our village bows can't even pierce tiger hide. We can't send people in with hoes and pitchforks. Pause. Second, medicine. We barely have any herbs. If someone gets injured and can't get treated immediately, it's over. I smiled. Uncle Zhou, I've already arranged weapons with Lu Tai Gang, the blacksmith in town. He's forging swords and arrowheads for us. Then I went inside and came back with the blue cloth bundle. Set it on the table. Untied it. 20 white porcelain bottles gleamed in the sunlight. What's that? Ahu's eyes went wide. Golden moon powder. I held up a bottle. Top grade. Specifically for combat injuries. Iron Egg picked one up and sniffed it. How much does this cost? Oh, just 1 liang per bottle. 1 liang. All 4 of them screamed simultaneously. Iron Egg nearly fumbled the bottle, then cradled it like a newborn and set it down with surgical precision. If he broke one, selling his entire body wouldn't cover the cost. Zhou Yi took a deep breath. His eyes on me had shifted, respect mixed with something like awe. Xiao Chun, you've thought this through far more carefully than I imagined. I met his gaze. Still have concerns? He stroked his chin stubble, thinking, then looked up sharply. Yesterday you said you had a method to guarantee 0 deaths while hunting tigers. Were you serious? Absolutely. Ahu couldn't contain himself. What method? Tell us. Iron Egg and Big Bull leaned in. For pairs of eyes locked on me. I looked at each of them, let the suspense build, and gave them my most mysterious smile. Well, about that. It's a secret. Shinji. Ahu stomped his feet like a toddler denied candy. You can't just tease us like that. Zhouyi stroked his uneven stubble, brow creased into a deep frown. Xiao Chun, this is life and death. Not a game. Uncle Zhou, trust me. You'll see the plan when the time comes. I could see the frustration on their faces, but I wasn't about to lay out my entire tiger hunting strategy in my backyard over tea. Some things work better as surprises. I changed the subject. More importantly, we can't run a hunting squad with just 5 people, right? Zhouyi nodded. That's no problem. After you killed that tiger solo, half the village will be fighting to join. I only need about 15. Uncle Zhou, you pick them. Experienced guys who can follow orders. Skill matters, but discipline matters more, he agreed. Ahu shoved his way forward. What about me? Don't you dare leave me out. I patted his shoulder. Relax. I need you to run an errand. Errand? He scratched his head, but didn't question it. Done. Then I turned to Iron Egg and Big Bull. You two go with Ahu to the county. I pulled out 20 liang of silver. Buy iron plates, leather cord, cowhide, as much as you can carry. Don't skimp. This stuff saves lives. Iron Egg pounded his chest loud enough to echo off the mountains. Consider it handled. Big Bull gave his trademark silent nod. No expression, but those steady eyes said, I've got this. Making armor? Zhouyi guessed immediately. Sharp old hunter. I pointed at my bandaged waist. A tiger's claws are faster than any sword. I learned that the hard way. Proper protection is non-negotiable. He gave me an approving look and stood up, dusting off his pants. All right, I'll go recruit. After they left, I went inside, found paper and a brush, and started drawing. Images from my previous life flooded back, weapon designs I'd studied, mechanisms I'd analyzed. My hand moved like it had a mind of its own. Iron Egg was peeping over my shoulder within seconds. He stared for a minute, then gasped. Brother Xiao, you're designing a crossbow? I turned. You know crossbows? Know them? His face lit up like Chinese New Year. My dad was an imperial crossbow soldier. Died young, but he left behind a bunch of crossbow parts. I've been taking them apart and putting them back together since I was a kid. I could assemble one blindfolded. Jackpot. I did not expect that. He squinted at the blueprint. Though, this doesn't look like any crossbow I've ever seen. It's weird looking, but I can tell the power would be serious. I smiled mysteriously. You'll understand once we test it. I finished the crossbow design and started a second sheet, forked spearheads and lance tips in unusual configurations. Weapons optimized for tiger anatomy, not human combat. When I was satisfied with everything, I handed the crossbow blueprint to Ahu. Deliver this to Tai Gang personally. If he has time, have him forge a prototype and send it back with you. Got it. He stuffed it inside his shirt. I gave the shopping list to Iron Egg. Buy everything on here, he scanned it. Understood. Mission accepted. Big Bull's thumb unconsciously rubbed an old bloodstain on his hatchet handle. I watched the 3 of them head down the road, then stood alone in the yard, hands behind my back. The morning sun was climbing. My shadow stretched across the ground like an unsheathed blade. Meanwhile, 30 miles away, Blood Knife Ridge. 3 mountains closing in on all sides. Only one narrow road in or out. Natural fortress. Perfect bandit lair. The gates were built from thick logs studded with iron spikes. The walls were rough stacked stone, topped with ragged black flags snapping in the wind. Inside, dozens of crooked wooden buildings clustered around a central hall flying a black banner painted with a blood-red machete. The hall stank of wine and grease. A dozen bandits were drinking and gnawing meat, bones, and smashed jugs littering the floor. On the throne-like main seat, the boss of Blood Knife Ridge, Zhang Xiao, sat reading a letter with half-closed eyes. About 40, pale face, no beard, narrow viper eyes radiating cold menace. Interesting, his voice slithered through his teeth. How rare, the county magistrate writing to us personally. His lips curled, but the smile never reached his eyes. His second-in-command, Ma Chong, leaned in. Thin as a blade, hawk nose, cruel lips. He glanced at the letter. Looks like Wu Lian is getting desperate, boss. Zhang Xiao stood slowly, firelight casting half his face in shadow. Zhang the blockhead couldn't even handle one simple job. Pathetic. He turned to Ma Chong, eyes glinting. Looks like we'll have to do this ourselves. Ma Chong immediately called over a thug. Go watch the road between Jiangzhou City and Ping'an County. The moment you spot Yang Qijing, report back. The thug nodded and left. Ma Chong hesitated. Boss, Yang Qijing has connections. If things go wrong, slam. Zhang Zhao's fist hit the table so hard the wine bowls jumped. Scared? Jiangzhou City is a mess right now. How many soldiers could he possibly call? And even if he did, the Empire's troops are useless. Good for bullying farmers, nothing else. The room erupted in laughter. One gap-toothed bandit cackled. Their soldiers can't even hold a sword straight. Another pockmarked one added. Last time we fought them, one guy pissed his pants before we even charged. Zhang Xiao settled back into his tiger hide chair, eyes cold and calculating. Any word from Gathering Righteousness Fortress? Ma Chong shook his head. No response yet. Zhang Zhao's lip curled with contempt. Those fools think they can sit on a hilltop and call themselves our equals? 3 days. If they don't surrender, I'll drown that fortress in blood. I'll send word immediately. Zhang Xiao picked up the magistrate's letter one more time, a greedy smile spreading across his pale face. A county magistrate thinks he can use me? Once I get what Gathering Righteousness Fortress is hiding, the entire Ping'an County will kneel at my feet. His laughter echoed through the wooden hall, cold and hollow. Sunset painted the village red. I was leaning against the doorframe watching Guning cook, and honestly, I could have stood there forever. She had her sleeves rolled up, showing pale arms, stir-frying greens in a wok, oil sizzling and popping, her cheeks glowing warm from the heat. A strand of hair had escaped her messy bun and was swaying by her ear with every flick of the spatula. Husband, why are you staring? She turned around, those big eyes shy and self-conscious. Is there something on my face? She reached up to wipe her cheek, but I caught her wrist. Actually, yes. I stepped closer and brushed my thumb across her cheek where there was a smudge of soot. Something cute. She froze. Then her entire face turned red, ears included, tips practically glowing pink. She gave me a look so soft it could melt iron. Smooth talker, she mumbled, trying to sound annoyed, but that little smile tugging at her lips gave her away completely. She turned to plate the food, and I wrapped my arms around her from behind, chin resting on her shoulder. Wifey, now that we've got some money, how about we renovate this place? She kept working, scooping greens into a rough porcelain bowl. It's fine the way it is. No need to waste money. She meant, that money almost cost you your life. I'd rather live in a mud hut than have you risk yourself again. I tightened my arms around her. It's not a waste. I leaned into her ear, breath grazing that sensitive spot. We'll need extra rooms, you know, for the kids. Can't have them all crammed into this tiny shack. She jolted so hard her spatula almost hit the floor. Her face buried itself in my chest at light speed, refusing to come up. But I could tell, behind that embarrassment, she was imagining it. Little kids running around a big courtyard while I sat watching and smiling. Whatever husband says, she whispered, so quiet I barely heard it. Her ears were red enough to cook an egg on. Warmth flooded through me. I kissed the top of her head. And then, that smell. Oh no. The porridge. She wriggled free and scrambled to the other stove. Yanked the lid off. The bottom of the pot was a crusty brown disaster. She stomped her foot in frustration. I walked over, took the ladle from her hand, and grinned. Burnt porridge? Even better. Everything my wife makes, I love. She glared at me, but the glare of a kitten trying to be fierce. I stole a kiss on her cheek and earned a soft punch to the shoulder. After dinner, I was reaching for the dishes when voices erupted outside. Chenji. We're back. Ahu's unmistakable foghorn, followed by the creak of an ox cart. I went out to find Iron Egg pulling a cart loaded down with sacks and wooden crates. Big Bull was untying ropes with his usual silent efficiency. Bought plenty, I see. Iron Egg wiped his forehead. You bet. 20 liang, spent to the last copper. He pulled out a crumpled stack of papers. Here's the receipt. I waved it away. 20 liang. Small change. Don't care. Chenji. Check if everything's right. Ahu was bouncing next to the cart. You guys eat yet? I can have. Already ate. Iron Egg waved me off. Where? Big Bull's head popped up from behind the cart. 3 words, like a clap of thunder. Drunken Immortal. You what? I made a big show of rolling up my sleeves. You went to the Drunken Immortal without me. Iron Egg flapped his hands in panic. It wasn't our fault. Boss Shin spotted us in town, helped us shop, then dragged us to dinner. We couldn't say no. I shook my head, laughing. Shin-san, that old fox. Using free meals to build a relationship with my people. Smart. Whatever. His money, his loss. Then Ahu dug to the bottom of the cart and pulled out a wrapped bundle. Inside, a gleaming crossbow mechanism, plus the custom forked spearheads and lance tips I'd designed. My eyes lit up. The crossbow was beautifully made, polished iron body, parts fitting together perfectly. I held the forked tip up to the moonlight. Sharp edges, cold gleam. Exactly to spec. Tai Gang's craftsmanship is unmatched. Iron Egg peered over my shoulder, scratching his head. Brother Xiao, I've been thinking the whole ride back. How do these spearheads and forks actually work against a tiger? These are just components. Once I assemble the final product, you'll understand. We unloaded everything. When the last crate was stacked, I clapped the dust off my hands. Thanks for the hard work, boys. Get some rest. Iron Egg grinned, wiped more sweat. Then his eyes drifted to the window where Gu Ning's silhouette was moving behind the paper screen. He dropped his voice to a stage whisper. You know what they say? A spring night is worth 1,000 gold. We totally get it. Wink, wink. You get it? You. I smacked his arm. You've never even touched a girl's hand. You lifelong bachelor. Don't stand here pretending to be a romance expert. Everyone cracked up. Next morning, first light. I was sitting cross-legged in the yard doing breathing exercises. White mist rose off my body in the cool air. When sweat appeared on my forehead, I stopped and got to work. First, I assembled the forked spearheads and lance tips onto wooden shafts, making small adjustments to the fit. Then I pulled out the premium mulberry wood and ox sinew I'd ordered. The wood had tight, beautiful grain. The sinew was oiled and supple. Perfect materials. Scrape, scrape, scrape. My knife carved the mulberry with practiced precision, shavings curling off in ribbons. The crossbow arms took shape, elegant curves, front end thinned by 3 inches for flexibility, string groove at the tail cut to fraction perfect accuracy. Gu Ning came out and saw me biting a piece of hemp rope between my teeth while fastening the bowstring, completely absorbed. She smiled, swept the wood shavings into a pile without making a sound, and slipped away toward Widow Wang's house. Good girl. Click. The final iron trigger mechanism slotted into the mortise joint. A clean, crisp sound of perfect fit. I raised the finished crossbow and admired it. Honey-colored mulberry arms. Ox sinew string taut as a piano wire. Iron mechanism gleaming cold in the morning light. I loaded a bolt, aimed at a tree trunk 20 paces away, and squeezed. Thwip. The bolt buried itself deep in the wood, tail vibrating violently. The hen I'd tied to the fence nearly had another cardiac episode, squawking and flapping onto the top rail. Not bad at all. Holy! Iron Egg's voice exploded from behind the fence. He'd apparently been standing there watching God knows how long, jaw hanging open wide enough to park an egg. Brother Xiao, that crossbow.